Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Joint Standing Committee on Taxation. We are predominantly gathered to continue our work on the taxation portions of the supplemental budget, LD 2212. Time allowing, near the end of that work session, we can also, we'll be talking about LD 191. But before we begin our work, we will have committee introductions. I'm going to turn it to my co-chair first.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I am Dan Sayre, the House Co-Chair of this committee, and I represent House District 135, which is the greater part of the great town of Kennebunk.
Good afternoon. I'm Ann Matlack. I represent House District 43, which includes the communities of Cushing, Thomaston, South Thomaston, St. George, and part of Owl's Head, all in Knox County.
I'm Shelley Rudnicki. I represent House District 67, which is Fairfield and Benton. And I want to give a shout out to the Lawrence ladies basketball team. They won the state championship on Friday.
Hello, I'm Tracy Quint. I represent House District 8. That's 47 communities in Washington, Aroostook, and Penobscot counties. And today I would like to say hello to Vanceboro, Lambert Lake, and Topsfield.
Hi there, I'm Scott Harriman. I represent House District 94, which is part of Lewiston.
Good afternoon, I'm Gregory Swallow. I represent House District number 7, which is Holton, Linneus, Ludlow, New Limerick, and Oakfield.
Good afternoon, everyone. Representative Ed Crockett from District 112, which is part of Portland and part of Falmouth. Not going to shout out a street today. I'm going to follow Representative Rudnicki's lead and send a huge congratulations to the number 6 seed Class A basketball champions, Portland Bulldogs.
Good afternoon. I guess it's a Bulldog Day. Good afternoon, Representative Russ White, House District 13, which is Ellsworth, Waltham, and Fletcher's Landing.
Gary Fidman representing the towns of Bar Harbor, Mount Desert, Lemoyne, and the Cranberry Isles.
Good afternoon. Thomas Levine, House District 140. I forgot who I was for a second.
We'll remind you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. House District 148. That's the towns of Berwick and parts of North Berwick.
Bruce Bickford, I represent Senate District 20, which is Auburn, Poland, New Gloucester, and Durham.
Thank you all. And I am Nicole Grahowski. I represent Senate District 7, which is 22 communities in Hancock and Knox counties. And today I'm going to shout out the youth from the Blue Hill Peninsula that came and paged in the House today. I got to visit with them a little bit, and happy birthday, especially to Tilden, who is Rep. Milliken's daughter. We also have with us our committee clerk, Elena Ray, and our committee analyst, Jessica Griswold, and also Chris Nolan from the Office of Fiscal and Program Review. Thank you all for being here. So we are going to start our work with the budget. Just to give everyone a quick sense of the order, I'm proposing that we start back through the report back doc and take it in order and touch on everything we didn't vote last Thursday. Then we'll go to the language parts, and we will take up probably in this order: conformity, homestead, better, and PTET, aka parts K, M, O, and then N. We are going to try to get through as much of this as possible and in a timely fashion due to the incoming weather. But we recognize that some of this is so complex that we may not be able to parse through it today. And we will report back what we are able to appropriations. And if they have to get multiple report backs from us, that will be what we do. All right. Any questions on that at this point? Great. So if I officially will open work session on LD 2212 and turn it to you, Chris Nolan, to take back up our, I guess, reference number 3 as a starting place.
Hello, everybody. Sorry, I have a bit of a cold, so I'm trying to not sniffle too much. You wanted to start with the non-language pieces?
Yes.
So I think the first one on the report back document, page 1 of 28, you had tabled the first initiative, which was to increase general fund appropriations in 26 and 27. This was the issue that they had MRS had taken a $5 million deappropriation in 25, with money being used from the ARP State Fiscal Recovery Fund to offset that appropriation. And I think your question was had to do with whether the funds, the federal funds, could be used or what they were being used for compared to what the general funds are used for. And I don't know if the department has prepared a response on that. I did go back to the 25 deappropriation. They took a personal services and all other deappropriation of 5 million. The personal services was ongoing, so that's not an issue. But the all other was supposed to be one time. And the deappropriation adjusted funding by decreasing general fund appropriations and increasing federal expenditure funds, ARP funds in the Revenue Services Bureau to allow for the expenditure of federal funds in a manner consistent with the U.S. Department of Treasury guidance. So they deemed at the time that the spending that they were going to use the federal funding for was consistent with the Treasury guidance at the time, and therefore took a deappropriation and used the federal money for that purpose.
Just to make sure everyone's oriented, we are on reference number 3 of the front page of the tax report back. Senator Bickford.
Sorry.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It seems pretty basic. We deappropriated because the federal government gave us that money, and now we have to put it back because we're not getting that money from the federal government.
Correct. So
Okay,
it was
yeah.
intended to be one time, but it got included in the following year's baseline. So they've
Okay.
been taking, they've been short of that appropriation on the all other side.
All right, Madam Chair, I'm going to make a motion that we move this in.
Okay, there's a motion from Senator Bickford to move in reference number 3. Is there a second? Seconded by Representative Sayer. Any further debate or discussion or information needed by committee members? Okay, seeing none, all in favor of moving this item into the budget, please indicate by raising your hands. All right, so we have Representative Harriman, Representative Sayer, Senator Grahowski, Senator Bickford, Representative Friedman, and Representative Crockett in support. All those who are opposed. We have Representative Swallow, Representative Quint, Representative Rudnicki, Representative Levine, and Representative White opposed. And if anyone needs us to repeat that for the note taking, if I went too fast, please just let us know. Okay. And just as a reminder, we are going to allow folks to vote who are absent up until the point in time in which we are done with our work and ready to report back. So moving on to reference number 5.
Reference number 5 is a approved reclassification of one business systems administrator position to a tax section manager position. And the follow-up request was for job descriptions of the 2 positions. And I do not.
Oh, reference 4. That's reference 4 and reference 3 are essentially the inverse of each other, correct?
Oh, sorry.
Yep,
Reference
sorry,
4 is
sorry.
the federal side and reference 3 is the general fund side. Sorry.
Okay, sorry. Back to reference 5. My apologies.
So I did not, did we get that follow-up information? I did not get that of the job descriptions for each of the 2 positions.
Looks like we have Sarah Lewis able to explain that to us. Thank you. Welcome.
Good afternoon. I'm Sarah Lewis from Maine Revenue Services. I think I would like to give you a little bit more background on this first. What appears to have happened is there was a reclassification that was approved in 2024. It was funded in the 2025 budget, but when it got put into the budget system, the position was put in as the wrong classification. So it went from a senior tax examiner to a tax section manager, but when it got put into the budget system, it was put in as a business system administrator. So what this is intended to do is bring that funding from the business system administrator up to the tax section manager position.
Senator Bickford.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So if you're just moving it from one account to the other, why do we have an appropriation?
It's not moving from one account to the other. It was underfunded in the last budget.
But it was funded in another category, said another position. It was funded, but it should have been this position. Is that what you're telling us?
No, it's the same position that went from a senior tax examiner to a tax section manager.
Okay.
When it got updated in the budget system, it was put in as a senior tax examiner to a business system administrator. So it was classified as the wrong position. which meant
Right,
it was
so just the wrong
underfunded.
classification, so there shouldn't be a appropriation, right?
The tax section manager costs more than a business system administrator. So the budget is
Oh,
underfunded
okay.
currently.
how many open positions do you have right now?
There are 51 bureau-wide.
How long have you had more than 40? Has it
I
been more than a year or
Don't know the
two?
answer to that.
I'm just wondering why we need an appropriation and you can't just use some of the money that's available in those unfilled positions.
You want to answer that?
Thank you.
No, that's not it's not. They could do that. They could lap funds to pay for it, but they're not doing it. That's not what the proposal is. Right.
My interpretation of this is somebody made a clerical error
clerical
and it
error.
had a $7,000 difference. But you don't have to agree with that. Is there a motion? Representative Friedman,
I move that we move reference number 5 in.
there's a motion to move reference number 5 in from Representative Friedman, seconded by Representative Harriman.
I'll second
Thank you. Any further debate or discussion on this item? Seeing none, all in favor of moving the item in, please indicate by raising your hands. We have Representative Harriman, Representative Matlack, Representative Sayer, Senator Grahowski, Representative Friedman, and Representative Crockett. All those who are opposed. Representative Swallow, Representative Quint, Representative Rudnicki, Senator Bickford, Representative Levine, and Representative White. Thank you very much. I think reference number 7 was the next one we did not vote.
That is correct.
Reference 7 was tabled because it is the funding. One-time administrative for the pass-through entity tax, so would presumably be necessary once you decide on what you're doing on part N. And whether it be the same amount or not, that would be an issue.
I think since we're still determining how this pass-through entity tax would be administered, and there's some open questions, I imagine that number could change with the administration. For example, if we were to opt into retroactivity. So I would propose that we continue to pass this one over at this time unless anyone objects. Okay. Let's see. Okay, I think that's all of the lines there. All right, so I would like to take up part K. And I think the most organized way to do that, once I find all my papers. There we go. I found the document from MRS Office of Tax Policy that we received last Thursday, which was titled The Consolidated Report on Maine Tax Conformity and the Provisions of Federal Public Law number 119-21. I thought that that report had a helpful breakdown of the tax conformity items, both direct and indirect. So I would propose we could use that as a reference point for our discussion unless anyone has a better idea. Okay, I'm always open to people having better ideas than I have.
You have an idea, so.
I have an idea, so there we go. So on page 24 of that report, which hopefully everyone has, I would direct members' attention to table A. This was the direct conformity items on the individual income tax. And my understanding is that the governor's supplemental budget proposes to conform on all of those items. And so I would ask the committee if there are any points of disagreement or if we concur with that approach that is proposed.
On what items, okay?
Well, K is the language in K is not necessarily indicative of what our policy decisions are. Due to the way that conformity works with the date change. So I just want to confirm with members that they are in agreement or not with the direct conformity that the governor has proposed regarding individual income tax. And those items are all seen on page 24 of the consolidated report, 1 through 7. Yep, absolutely. Senator Bickford.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll move in items 1 through 7.
Okay. Sort of an odd way to do it in terms of our voting, but hopefully we can find out the way that we can capture this in our memo report back. So Senator Bickford is proposing that we agree with the governor's supplemental budget in terms of direct conformity on individual income tax items. Is there a second on that motion?
The cheese and the.
I would like to second it if nobody else will. Thank you, Representative Friedman. I appreciate that. My idea with looking at it this way is the date change signifies a number of policy decisions, and I want to make sure the committee is recognizing what those policy decisions are and agreeing or disagreeing with that. So there's not an obvious place in the language in K that indicates, yes, we agree with the enhancement of the child dependent care credit, for instance. Senator Bickford.
Thank you. I just have one question. If it's direct conformity, why is there nothing under the year 2026? Did I move something in that I might not have wanted to?
Yes.
So I believe these were all prospective items proposed by OB3, whatever we call it. So they did
Right,
not have
which
an
is
impact.
already in effect. Those don't go in effect in 2027. They're already in effect. Is that right?
For the tax filing year of 2026.
Right. And we're proposing to move it out to start in 2027.
No. That is not what we're proposing.
Okay.
Dr. Allen, come help straighten us
So-
out, please.
So I'm good with my moving that in then. Okay.
Maybe a little more explanation.
Michael Allen, Associate Commissioner for Tax Policy. So this is one of the difficult parts of all this at this point is the timing of the revenue impact. Correct. So it would begin in 26, but the legislature hasn't acted yet. So, and people, this is a credit, so it's not one of those items that people are likely to adjust their estimated payments or they're withholding for it. It's likely they'll get the benefit when they file a year from now.
Representative White?
So I'm just curious, the 1 through 7, so we're supporting this going in. Is this where tips, overtime, interest, would that have been in there if that was being included, or is this just something completely separate?
No, so those are deductions that happen below the line. So transporting the federal adjusted gross income calculation, the result of that calculation into the main income tax returns would not include any of those items. Yeah, they're not direct conformity items. Any further questions or comments, concerns on these 7 items conforming with the federal government's approach? Representative Swallow.
Thank you. Just for clarification, please. As far as extension of limitation on deduction and exclusion of moving expenses, as I understand it, veterans would still be able to deduct those moving expenses on line 11, right?
I think that was
Think
my
I-
recollection as well from the reading of the memo. Maybe it was active
Well, active
service.
service, I think I should say active service is what my memory is. Is
Yeah.
that correct?
I think that's correct. Anyone in the listening audience would like to further comment on that? Or if we're correct, then we can let it be. Hmm. Says the 2025 Act permanently limited the deduction except for active duty members of the armed forces and expanded the deduction for military personnel to include employees and appointees of intelligence agencies. Great. I read this whole report. I just want to prove it to everybody. It's a scintillating weekend. Yeah. Okay. Any further questions or comments on these? All right. All those in favor of direct conformity on individual income tax items, please indicate by raising your hands. We have Representative Swallow, Representative Harriman, Representative Quint, Representative Rudnicki, Representative Sayer, Senator Grahowski, Senator Bickford, Representative Levine, Representative Friedman, Representative White, and Representative Crockett. So unanimous of those present, and we are missing Representative Matlack and Representative Tipping, Senator Tipping. Okay. So the next sort of breakdown of conformity items, also on page 24 and on page 25 of this report, are the direct conformity items regarding business tax filers. And so there's a number of items in here. My understanding is that items number 11 through 26, the governor has proposed to completely conform with the federal treatment, and items 8 and 9, she has proposed to not conform, and item 10, she's proposed a variation on conformity. So I would propose we take up numbers 8 and 9 and see if we agree with the governor's position to not conform on bonus depreciation and accelerated depreciation, which I think has been the longstanding treatment of tax in Maine. Senator Bickford.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a question for whoever can answer, but items 8 and 9, we're going to treat that pretty much the same way we have been. We have decoupled for years on both of those items. Is that correct? And we're going to continue to do that?
I'm saying head nodding yes, but Dr. Allen, feel welcome to put a finer point on it.
Yep. Just to be clear, item 8 has been in place in one way, shape, or form since the early 2000s, bonus depreciation. And correct, we haven't conformed for many years, and the governor's proposed to continue to do that. Accelerated depreciation for qualified property is sort of an add-on bonus depreciation. So I just want to make clear that is new. But it's essentially expanding bonus depreciation to additional property, and the governor's proposal is to continue not to conform.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay, is there a motion on number 8 and 9 to keep it out of the budget? I'll put it that way.
No.
Meaning,
keep it as-
well, yes, to do what the governor did, leave it as is. Yes.
To move it in.
We got some double negatives
as
here.
proposed, yes.
Okay,
I'll move that in.
there's a motion to move it in, which I'm going to interpret to mean keep it as proposed by the governor. Seconded by Representative Friedman. Is there any further debate or discussion? Representative Rudnicki.
Is, just to make sure is that for just 8 and 9, 8 and 9?
Yes.
Okay.
continue to decouple and expand decoupling. Yeah. Is there any?
Doesn't do anything that should.
Senator Bickford. We had training today and you're just warming up. Is there any further debate or discussion on this motion? Okay, so all those in favor of that proposal?
The vote on 8 and 9 is to,
As proposed.
as proposed, which
Yes.
is not the numbers that you see on page
Correct.
24, 26.
Those would be, yes, those are zeroed out.
If I may.
Representative Sayer.
Madam Chair, so the vote, we are taking a yes vote is to agree with the governor to continue to decouple and to not include these two items in the budget
Yes.
As proposed in the supplemental budget.
as
Yeah.
proposed in the budget.
Okay, we got this, I think. All those in favor of that, please indicate by raising your hands. We have Representative Harriman, Representative Sayer, Senator Grahowski, Senator Bickford, Representative Friedman. And Representative Crockett, I don't know what you're doing down there. Okay. All those who oppose that motion. We have Representative Swallow, Representative Quint, Representative Rudnicki, Representative Levine, Representative White, and Representative Crockett. Okay. So there's not a lot of difference between the pen and the fingers up and down is all I'm trying to interpret that. Okay. All right, so we have that vote. Thank you. So just to clarify for the members that voted against that, you are proposing what? Representative Swallow?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, I was hoping that we could take 8 and 9 separately, I guess. So I'm in favor of putting 9 in, not necessarily 8.
Oh,
So
we could do that.
if we could.
Sure, we can break up that vote. That's no problem. Apologies, I didn't do that earlier. Okay, so on number 8, bonus depreciation, the proposal is to continue the practice of decoupling. All those in favor of that? Okay, we have Representative Swallow, Representative Harriman. We can, Representative Quint, Representative Rudnicki, Representative Sayer, Senator Grahowski, Senator Bickford, Representative Levine, Representative Friedman, Representative White, and Representative Crockett. Thank you. Okay, that was number 8, unanimous of those present. Number 9, accelerated depreciation for qualified property. Do committee members have any debate or discussion on that item? I'm just curious why members want to include it, because we haven't really discussed it. If anyone would like to contribute their thoughts. Excellent. Representative Harriman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just have a question on if number 9 is sort of an add-on to number 8, can they be treated separately in this? Okay.
I don't know the answer to that question. Maybe somebody from Maine Revenue Services could help us understand how plausible it is to do number 9 without doing number 8.
Dan Pittman, Associate Tax Policy Counsel with the Office of Tax Policy. We have not studied what it would take to implement 9 while continuing to do decouple from bonus depreciation. Off the top of my head, I think it would be extraordinarily complicated. We would essentially have to, I think that we would have to essentially create a main system that allows, that operates very much like the federal bonus depreciation system, but only applies to this one category of property that now gets the federal treatment, but has not gotten federal bonus depreciation treatment previously. So we would be sort of administering a portion of the bonus depreciation system on the fly. I haven't thought it through, but I certainly think it would be very, very complicated to administer just the one without having to sync it up to bonus depreciation is fairly straightforward, but to implement one tiny part of bonus depreciation without a bonus depreciation system would be very, very complicated.
Senator Bickford?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to move item 9 in.
Can you clarify what you mean by in this case? Are you,
As proposed.
okay, so you're supporting the governor's proposal?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Seconded by Representative Friedman. Representative Swallow.
I was prepared to talk about this a little bit, but however, if it's going to be highly complicated, I will probably go along with Senator Bickford on this. If it's going to be if you believe it's going to be quite an issue.
I wish I could tell you we've studied it, but I don't. I would think it would be extremely, extremely complicated. Yes, yes, sir.
Is it fair to say, Dan, that Maine Revenue Services has considered those two items as
Yes.
so intertwined that you have not studied separating them because it didn't?
That's fair to say, Senator. Yes. Did we revote that?
Yeah, we've got a new motion, so we can do, it's a new vote. Yeah. New motion on straw polls. It's a whole new world. Any further questions about this? I appreciate digging into it a little more because I certainly benefited from more information myself. Okay, all those in favor of Senator Bickford's motion to agree with the governor's proposal on this, I guess is how I'll phrase it. Move in the, I don't know how to. Do you guys need more time? I'm not trying to rush anybody. Representative Quinn.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just with the vote that we took earlier, if they're kind of going in together because really you can't do one without the other. And so if I wanted to go with my prior vote, can we is the committee comfortable with doing 8 and 9 together and voting on that the way that we did earlier instead of separating them out? Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Or, I mean, since we've already voted on 8, then if you want them to go together and do something different than was proposed, then vote yes. Or vote against this particular motion and then say you want to combine them.
Thank you very much.
It's a different way to get there, but I think it gets there. Well, actually, no, that's not right. I get, yes, because you want to do the opposite maybe on number 8 of what was proposed in the budget.
Yeah, they're together. Yeah.
We can also come back to these two. Representative Quinn.
Thank you very much. Thank everybody. Thank you, truly. Yes, let's go ahead and vote on the 9. I think I would have just stayed together. I was just deferring when Representative Swallow wanted to approach something differently. And since you can't do one without the other practically, then I would change my earlier vote, which is why I'm thinking if we do 8 to 9, if everybody's comfortable with that, since it would be the same vote for both. Thank you.
Okay. Representative Levine, I'm on track now, I think. Let's see about
So would
you.
it be appropriate just to reconsider?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I make a motion to reconsider.
Okay, we're going to reconsider our vote on 8 and 9 together, and we're going to throw out the vote on 8. This is a little bit flexible because none of it is binding per se. Representative Swallow. Seconded by Representative Swallow. Thank you both. Okay, so the motion, that was to reconsider. Everyone in favor of reconsidering, just to go through the works. Thank you very much. And is there a motion on 8 and 9? Senator Bickford.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to move item 8 and 9 in as proposed by the chief executive. Yes. In the supplemental budget.
Okay, Senator Bickford has made the motion. Representative Friedman has seconded. Any further debate or discussion? Okay, all those in favor of that motion, please indicate by raising your hands. We have Representative Swallow, Representative Harriman, Representative Sayer, Senator Grahowski, Senator Bickford, Representative Levine, Representative Friedman, Representative White, and not Representative Crockett. Okay, sounds good. And all those who are opposed? Representative Quint, Representative Rudnicki, and Representative Crockett. Thank you. And for your report on that, you are proposing to,
I'm gonna say no.
So, not
What's your place?
I think we all just said no. In a way.
You all said no, so you're saying yeah.
Yes, I'm voting for, okay. I'm just saying no to the governor, period.
That is one way to proceed.
Okay.
So just to confirm, Representative Quint, Representative Rudnicki, and Representative Crockett are proposing to conform with these two items, number 8 and 9, with the federal government. Is that correct? It's either yes or no. Okay. Okay. So Representative Crockett, Representative Quint, and Representative Rudnicki are saying that they would like to conform to 8 and 9. Representative Crockett, if you want to say just one or the other, you can do that. Okay, go on, Mike, please. Thank you.
I'm okay with conforming to 8.
Okay, Representative Crockett's vote is to conform to 8 and not 9, and Representative Quint and Representative Rudnicki are voting to conform to 8 and 9. Okay, great. We got through that.
I just at 9, you want the governor's proposal? 9 would be what's in the supplemental.
Yes.
The opposite, actually.
So you want
Is
to
what
fully
I
conform to 9?
That's the proper word.
Well, you have to decide what you want to do, and then we can word it properly. Representative Crockett does not want to conform with the federal government's treatment of accelerated depreciation for qualified property. Is that correct? The governor proposed to not conform.
And what did the governor do on number 8?
The governor proposed to not conform, as has been the case since the early 2000s.
Okay. I'll go to conform on both.
Okay, thank you very much. So the 3 dissenting members are conforming on 8 and 9. Okay. Next was the R&D expense deduction, number 10 in that report. The governor has proposed a partial conformity, I guess is what I would characterize that as. Dan, maybe you can remind us.
The governor has proposed, sorry. The governor has proposed that all of the provisions of the federal changes with respect to expensing of R&D expenses be available starting immediately for what the federal government defines as small businesses, which you can think of as gross income, gross receipts of 31 million or less per year, adjusted for inflation. So for businesses under that limit, the governor would fully conform with the federal treatment immediately. For businesses above that $31 million limit, the governor would phase in conformity over a period of years. And there's a chart in the commissioner's testimony that shows exactly how that phase in would work for those larger businesses. So for small businesses, immediate conformity; for large businesses, as the federal government defines them, phased in conformity.
Sorry, can you point me to the chart you just referenced?
It was in parts.
Okay.
I believe it was the last testimony, if I'm not mistaken.
That is here.
Yeah, we will see you. That's absolutely.
Thank you. Representative Swallow and then Representative Levine.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just for clarification, with the small business where the governor proposes to conform, that's retroactive to 22 as well, correct?
Yes, in the sense that the federal government proposed and the government would conform with the idea that small businesses that incurred research and development costs in tax years 22 through 24 could go back and amend their returns to deduct those for tax years 22 through 24 if they wanted to. And the governor, I think last time I was here, I talked about how tough time travel is. Before the legislature met, the governor proposed conforming to that, had the assessor conform to that for the current tax year. So businesses can currently go back and amend those returns under the governor's executive order, or under the governor's action under Chapter 336, excuse me. The governor did not, in that action, authorize another option under the OB3, which allows those small businesses to fully deduct those some expenses in 2020 in tax year 2025. The governor's budget now does propose that full conformity again for those small businesses. So yes, sir.
Thank you.
A very complicated way of saying yes.
Yeah, but no, I got it. Thank you. That's really.
There are other questions? Representative Friedman. Oh, excuse me, Representative Levine, you were next. I apologize. If you'd like.
Yeah, at the risk of sounding like a dope, is this a credit or expense? I'm just trying to figure out where it springs from.
It's a deduction. You're deducting your research and development.
So
expenses. So
expense.
Exactly. Yes, sir.
Representative Friedman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Out of concern for the definition of what a small business is, I was wondering if MRS has ever looked at various thresholds. $31 million defining a small business seems high to me, especially when this initially, my understanding is that when the R&D expense deduction was initiated, it started out with small businesses defined as 5 million. And since it's, since then it's increased sixfold. So I just wonder if, like what the cost would be if we limited small businesses to say $10 million instead of 31.
We have not run the numbers on that. We can certainly try. Our informal sense is that there wouldn't be a great deal of savings to the state in that change. Most of the real money is in the large taxpayers. Most of what's reflected in the fiscal note has to do with the large taxpayers. But we do not have estimates of what different thresholds would mean. It would, we sort of are relying on federal. There would be some administrative complexity in not using the federal standard, depending on how we did that. How complex it would depend on how exactly we chose to do that, what other number we used. And we would also have to think about folks that have been amending their returns, have worked on amending their returns, have started this process, or I don't know if there are any that have actually filed, but there could very well be businesses that have filed amended returns that are in that, let's say, if we go down to 10 million, that are in that range from 11 to 31 million, then that would be complicated as well. But we have not studied it, no, sir.
Representative Swallow.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would just think if we used a different threshold, it would be an administrative nightmare. If we were, 17 million and the federal was 31 million. Am I correct in that? I mean, wouldn't that be for the taxpayers as well, knowing all the differences? If we do something like that?
I'm reluctant to use the word nightmare, but it would certainly be very complex. Yes, sir.
My question is, would it be, so there's complexity on the administrative side, your side, and then there's complexity for the taxpayer and their accountants. Do you see similar complexity for both parties, or is it more on one or the other?
I think it would depend on how the other threshold was set. If it was just, you take the federal number, you calculate gross receipts using the same test the feds use, you get the $31 million number, but instead of $31 million, we're calling it 10 million or some other number. I don't think that would be terribly complex for taxpayers to calculate. It would be complex again for taxpayers who've started to or are in the process of amending their returns on the idea that they are small businesses within the meaning of the federal law. It would be difficult for them, but I don't think the math in terms of figuring out whether I am a small business would necessarily be complicated if we followed the federal approach to that calculation.
Representative Friedman and then Senator Bickford.
May I make a motion, Madam Chair?
Sure, anyone can do that anytime.
In the interest of simplicity, then I'd like to move that we conform only with the deduction for small businesses, but not phase in the larger business R&D expense deduction at all.
Okay, Representative Friedman has moved to conform with small business, but not the phase-in of the larger businesses. Is there a second to that? Seconded by Representative Harriman. Thank you. Representative Crockett.
Yeah, on page 24 of the chart that we've been following.
Yep.
So the numbers that are listed there, $111 million. What am I reading? What is that? Is that a loss that the state's going to take if we support what's in the supplemental budget? Just the opposite. If we fully conformed, it would be that would be the hit.
What's on page 24, 26 you're looking at is full conformity, which is this whole document, just gives you the option. Not to confuse things, but on page 16 of the governor's testimony is a detailed breakout of what she is proposing. So in number 10, the 111.30, but then on page 16, halfway down, you see research and development expense deduction, full conformity for business and phase out, fully conform for others. And you see the revenue loss on that table. And these numbers all add up to what's in the actual proposal.
I can't seem to find that page 16
16 on the commissioner's testimony.
on the commissioner's testimony.
Yeah, so we've got like multiple documents with different things that.
That document, about halfway down, you see research and development expense deduction.
Yeah.
Full conformity for small business and phase
Okay,
into fully
okay.
conformed. That's the revenue loss of what is proposed in the supplemental budget.
My apologies, because earlier I wasn't looking at page 16. I was only looking at the frightening numbers on page 24 and got a little nervous.
Understood. Yeah, I think that problem is we don't have a big enough piece of paper with like all the columns that I want to see all in the same place. So we're kind of cross-referencing multiple documents here, but the governor's proposal, the cost of that is in the commissioner's report, as Mr. Nolan pointed out. But for anyone who is opting, if anyone is opting to fully conform, they can see the fiscal impact of that in the report we received on Thursday. Senator Bickford, I think, did you have your hand up or am I hallucinating that?
My question.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else with questions on this item?
Did you get a second on these?
There was a second from Representative Harriman.
Was it?
The motion was to agree with the governor's treatment of full conformity for small businesses, but not phase in full conformity for others. Is that correct? Yes. I personally haven't given that particular proposal a lot of thought. I don't know if I'm ready to vote on it. I guess, do we have any information that we've seen about how that would further break down this fiscal impact?
I don't believe so, unless they're shaking behind me. I don't believe so.
Do we have any idea of how many, like like of the whole universe of people who are able to take this deduction, how many are in small business versus other?
Anecdotally, we've been talking with the Maine Association of CPAs, as you know, and others, and informally sort of asking, do you fall under the small business or not? And most of the folks that we have talked to have said that they would easily qualify as small businesses under the $31 million, but that's just some anecdotes. I don't know of any more formal data than that.
I'm gonna propose that I would like to think about this more, and perhaps caucus it. Maybe we can, keep a running list of things we want to take a break and discuss and not take many, many breaks. And not do that, not act on this motion right now. But is there any other information that committee members would like to request? Okay. Representative Swallow.
Just thank you. Just for clarification, you've requested the cost if we were to phase this in, right? Is that your request?
The question was, so Representative Friedman's motion was to do full conformity for the small businesses and not do the phase in. But I don't have a sense of what part of this fiscal note we're seeing here is small business versus phase in.
I don't either. And that was you want to see the
Yeah,
phase in,
I'm
correct?
curious about
That's
that.
okay. I was going to ask. Okay. you've
Like, what
asked.
if I find out that that's $500,000 because everyone's a small business? Like, I'm not gonna want to split hairs over that, for instance. That's probably not a good example, but it does look like Dr. Allen, you might have something to contribute. And then
So the vast majority of that fiscal note is associated with large businesses and the phase-in to full conformity for those large businesses. The small businesses, they're small, the revenue impact is relatively a small portion of that fiscal note. And that's why the governor, one of the reasons why the governor is proposing to fully conform on those small businesses. It's going to be more difficult for them not to conform. And it can be done at a relatively modest cost compared to the larger businesses.
Representative Sayer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Dr. Allen. Correct me if I'm wrong. That what we are looking to conform to is a correction in OB3 to a policy that was implemented in TCJA that created an expensing of R&D expenses that for many businesses created a double taxation burden. Is that correct?
Correct. The TCJA went from a long history of full expensing to amortizing over 6 years R&D expenses.
So in a sense, this policy change is not creating a new or greater tax break for businesses. It's going back to what
Had been the
prevailed
historic norm.
up until 2017. And the reason, if I may, I'm trying to compare page 24 of the document from the 26th and page 16 from the document of the 19th. One, which is or a simpler way to put it, the cost of total conformity and the cost of the governor's proposal. And is it correct that the reason that the estimates for fiscal 28 and 29 are greater in the governor's proposal than they are in the full cost of conformity? They are greater because some of that cost is being deferred to later years. The total cost of this phase in is significantly less than the total cost in the same 4 years would have been with full conformity. But 28 and 29 are bigger because that's where the hit is going to come because of the phasing, correct?
Right. I mean, all of this is a timing issue. You either get the deduction all up front, or you spread the deduction out over a number of years. And going back to full expensing means we go back to 100%. The businesses would be able to deduct their expenses 100% in the first year when those expenses are made. And then after that, the revenue loss is relatively small. So it is a timing issue. And I would point out, even under the governor's proposal, for the larger businesses where it's being phased in, they are getting a tax cut relative to the TCJA law. They're just not getting the full benefit of expensing until 2030. So what would be the first year of expenses that they would be in conformity with the federal tax law.
Representative Sayer and then Senator Bickford.
And one last follow-up. I think I just wanted to put a button on what I thought I heard you say for clarification, that most of this cost is related to businesses greater than 35 million in revenue.
Yes.
Gotcha. Thank you.
31 million.
31.
It's the only thing I understand about all this. No, just kidding. Senator Bickford.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So, Dr. Allen, I like how you kind of clarified this, that it's all timing. If we fully conformed immediately, we'd have a huge hit up front, but the outgoing costs would be much less.
Correct.
I have a real problem with accepting large businesses where some of these large businesses are the backbone of some of our great union jobs in the state of Maine. Some of the large paper makers, I can think of some large companies like BIW, IDEX Labs, things like that. These people are in Maine and they really don't have to be. I mean, BIW may have a hard time moving, but company like IDEX Labs, some of the paper mills, they wouldn't have that hard a time moving out of Maine because of poor tax policy. There's no way in the world I could support not fully conforming to research and development expenses, because I think they're critical to business in Maine. It's a big upfront cost. I understand that. But we're spending money in a supplemental budget that I don't believe we need to. There's a lot of money available to pay for this research and development expense. I believe we can find it. I believe that our good friends in appropriations would have no problem at all finding this money.
Any further requests for information on this one? Representative Sayer.
Not a request for information, but a point of discussion with there's a great deal that I heard from Senator Bickford that I agree with wholeheartedly. But I do think there's a difference of in fact here that I wanted to clarify. Just doing the math in my head, a dangerous place. There's about 175 million in expense with full conformity. Reading the governor's proposal, it's about 85 million. And is it not the case that part of that is because there's retroactivity in full conformity, retroactivity in OB3 that we are foregoing in the governor's proposal? It's not all timing. It's also a certain amount of backward looking expense catch up that we're not providing for, or am I mistaken?
Trying to remember, even the large companies could. Yep. So even at the federal level, even the large businesses can recover the unamortized expenses in 25 and 26. That just wasn't for the small businesses.
And that's not in the governor's proposal.
That is not in the governor's proposal for the large businesses. The smaller businesses is full conformity. They can either go back and amend 22, 23, and 24. They can recapture the unamortized expenses in 25 and 26 if they want. And for tax year 2025, they go to full expensing.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to propose we put a pin in this one for the time being. Okay, back to the consolidated report. We have basically items 11 through 26 are all items that the governor's supplemental budget has proposed to conform to. It's my understanding. Do committee members have any interest in discussing any of those items in greater detail? Representative Quint?
Thank you. I just have a question. With the 2026 being all zeros because they're other than 25, they're not being implemented until the 2026 year, which is affecting 2027. Is that correct?
Representative Sarah?
I believe I can help you.
Love it.
You got a backup plan too if you need.
If you compare, are you on page 24 of the February 26th?
I am.
So if you pull out the February 19th testimony of the commissioner and look at page 16, you will see those provisions that are also zero. Most of the provisions are also zeros under full conformity because of the timing of when they take effect. Does that answer your question?
Yes, I just wanted to make sure this was a timing issue with all of the amounts.
Yeah, and this was, it's amazing what you can end up having a long discussion about, but in this case, it was rather difficult in trying to think about the effect for tax year 26 when that was going to hit state revenue. So we had to think about the fact that, the governor's bill is now before the legislature. The legislature hasn't acted yet. When will the legislature act? And then when will taxpayers start making some adjustments to their estimated payments and so forth? So in most of these, what we're assuming is by the time the legislature acts and so forth, most taxpayers won't start making any adjustments until, next fiscal year. So, and that's why it's mostly zeros.
Okay, thank you.
Representative Swallow?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm curious as to if there's any information on, as far as opportunity zones go, how effective they are. Is there any information out there on how the effectiveness?
I think we have some representatives here that can help answer those questions for you.
Thank you so much. So the question is about number 24, permanent renewal and enhancement of opportunity zones. How effective have the opportunity zones been?
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Mo Terry. I'm the legislative liaison for the Department of Economic and Community Development. And the short answer is not really. However, I can tell you that knowing that this was coming, the commissioner has been reaching out to businesses all over the state, primarily developers, investors, and CPAs to find out if those opportunity zones have been beneficial, because the way that the state doesn't actually ever see whether or not those are used. They're a federal program, so when it comes time to doing financing, private business don't necessarily share their information with the department. But he has been reaching out and talking to community members essentially all over the state, finding out what are good places to expand this program, and has gotten some really great feedback. I think that the housing market specifically will benefit from growing the opportunity zones. But as far as, actual numbers, we have very little that we can go on. Just very little at this point.
Representative Sarah?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Ms. Terry. Pleasure to see you. I've tried to come up to speed on opportunity zones and also qualified rural opportunity funds in OB3. I confess I've come up short. But what I've seen in the legislative intent in OB3 in this area was to try to tighten the rules around opportunity zones and to direct more of the benefit to rural areas. That as a preface, do you have a sense of the extent to which this policy, this tax break, would benefit rural areas in Maine under the Qualified Rural Opportunity Fund program?
Yes, again, to a degree. And I will say that our understanding is that the work is still being done on what the actual opportunity zones will be. I believe it's all supposed to be wrapped up by June, so hopefully we'll get some better answers. But the way that the commissioner puts it is there is an opportunity zone isn't just necessarily a rural area. It has to have structure. So where his favorite thing is saying, it's not good. They're not going to have opportunity zones in cornfields out in the middle of nowhere. They're going to have opportunity zones will be in places that have certain financial poverty guidelines, essentially, but also structure to support things like housing developments or business developments. So electricity, sewer, water, et cetera. So it's a kind of a, I don't want to call it necessarily a fine line, but all of the pieces have to be put in place to make sure that those zones are going to be beneficial for investment, for outside investment to come in and sort of set up shop there. Does that help a little?
A little.
A little.
Representative Freeman?
Yes, I have a question. I understand that the OB3 expands the gains covered from 10 to 15 million for and it increases the size of companies eligible from 50 to 75 million. Do you know how much that impacts the revenues to Maine?
I don't know how much that impacts the revenues to Maine. I suppose it does, but it's not something that we would necessarily see. I think Dr. Allen can probably give you somewhat of a ballpark, but at the same time, there's, it's taken out at the federal level versus the state level. So what we see in the state is different than, it's not necessarily what you would see on federal tax returns.
Rep. Freeman, can I just clarify, did you go to the number 19?
I'm looking at
Okay, I'm sorry. I was just reorienting myself here with your question. Go right ahead. Can you turn your microphone on, please? Thank you.
So the follow-up, and this might be a question for Dr. Allen, is would it be possible even to decouple from the increase in the gains on the company sizes, and how much of the impact is in those larger capital gains, 10 to 15 million and 50 to 75 million dollar companies?
I don't know the answer to the second one. This is like many of these estimates, they're pretty hard to get at because we just don't have a lot of information off of tax returns on the existing program, never mind changes to it. But it's like anything else, there'll have to be lines added to the tax return to account for our decoupling. taxpayers will have to work their way through that along with MRS.
I had another question, maybe it's for Ms. Terry on the opportunity zones. So based on this memo from Maine Revenue Services, the previous opportunity zones, they were designated by the governor. Do you know what areas had been designated already in the state?
There is actually a map on the DECD website, and I apologize. I actually meant to copy that for you, but I can send a link to you all so you can take a peek as to what is current. Again, we won't know for a few more months of what the new zones will be, but the commissioner's working really hard to make sure that they're the most opportunistic
around the opportunity.
zones. Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
And to just clarify that point, so with the changes to the opportunity zones, and there's this new category of zones and rural communities, is that still something that the governor gets to designate?
That is true.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's not just like anything defined as rural by the federal government census tracts, let's say,
Correct.
is
Yes.
in. Okay.
No, it starts with that, but again, there's layers that make it so that those places are not, so it makes sense for businesses to come and want to invest there.
Okay. And the rules are in place from the federal government. And then right now it's in the hands of our chief executive.
Correct.
And staff to do the layering.
Exactly.
Okay,
Yes.
excellent. Thank you. Representative Sayer and then Representative Swallow.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Ms. Terry. I believe where you started was to answer a question about the effectiveness of opportunity zones, and you indicated not a lot of evidence. Is that
True
correct?
from us. I would say that again, we just don't see the numbers. We have anecdotal evidence that commissioners, like I said, been speaking with CPAs, with other developers, with investors. So they're the ones that are telling him that those have worked for those people over the course of, how long the opportunity zones have been in effect. But because we don't see the numbers and it's private business that get these opportunities, we don't see what they are specifically.
Wouldn't it be the case that since we have a map, there'd be the ability to measure
Anecdotally, yes, yes.
and
But
from
again,
that, do you have a sense of effectiveness?
I can see if I can come up with something for you for sure. Again, it would be anecdotal. I would not want to put the word data on that. There's, I would say, obvious markers maybe that someone could have taken advantage of that, but if they did or not, we're not sure.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
Yep.
Representative Swallow and then Senator Bickford.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In the description of an opportunity zone, it says with median incomes of less than 80% of area or state median income. And is there a minimum size to an opportunity? It seems like you'd almost have to, for lack of a better term, gerrymander these things
Yeah.
so that you get the 80%.
Yeah.
Is there a minimum size or any?
I think, I wouldn't say yes to that. I would want to double check on that answer, but at the same time, again, that's the base. The base is the poverty level. So 80% of the poverty level. And then it gets layered from there as to what else is around that area that would create zones of opportunity. Does that make sense? I'm using all the words. But that's where it starts. So in that case, at times, there's a good chunk of the state is available for this kind of thing as far as income levels go. But at the same time, it also has to be met with a few other guidelines to make it so it's usable. Again, going back to putting an opportunity zone in the middle of the let's say unincorporated territory where it's all woods, it might not be the place for an opportunity zone. The poverty level could be down at those levels, but nothing else is there, so it would be harder. It would not make any sense to put those there. Does that make sense?
No.
Sorry.
Rep Swell, if you could get on the mic.
Yeah,
Thanks.
excuse me. Well, it does make some sense, but it just seems that, you've got these different parameters of you have to have the certain infrastructure, et cetera, then you have to have the 80% of median income of the state and
Yeah.
whatnot. It just seems like the rather tricky little.
It is definitely tricky, which is maybe why it's taken so long to get all those zones designated.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
but yeah, it's definitely, it's a puzzle for sure.
Okay. Now, then there's no minimum size. It could be any.
No, not
Okay.
as far as I know. Yeah. yeah.
Thank you.
Rep Sarah? Were you, Senator Bickford, were you next? And I forgot. I apologize. Senator Bickford. My
Thank you,
apologies.
Madam Chair. I really like 11 through 26, reading through it, it's all full conformity, and I'm a big proponent of full conformity, so I'm gonna move in 11 through 26, and not separate anything out.
Okay, Senator Bickford is proposing to concur on 11 through 26, seconded by Representative Rudnick. That's okay. We will carry on with the conversation. Representative Sayer.
Thank you very much. This question is germane to the motion on the floor.
Yes.
Because I'm back with opportunity zones and trying to get a sense of the effectiveness of this tax break, the shifting of the tax burden to other taxpayers, if we were to give this away. And it is the case, right, that the investors in opportunity zones in Maine, if we decouple, would still be eligible for the federal opportunity zone tax break. It's just if the state doesn't conform, they wouldn't get the state break, or they'd lose the federal as well if the
It's
state
not,
didn't
it's
conform.
not, it's never a state break. So, but how the taxpayer's income is treated is different, would be different if we decoupled.
I need to follow up.
Yeah, we need more information on
Thanks.
that.
This is definitely an MRS thing. I can probably do it, but I won't make sense.
It's a team effort, this
Yeah.
whole project. Group projects, we love them.
So, hello.
Hi, Dan Pittman, Associate Tax Policy Counsel, Minority Services Office of Tax Policy.
So I guess my question for you is, if it's not a state break, how is it that permanent renewal and enhancement of opportunity zones would be a $5.25 million cost to revenue in 2027, increasing to almost 10 million in each year,
Sure.
2028 and 2029?
Yeah, that's a good question. And this is a very complicated provision, as you've noted. And I think that we've been focused on the opportunity zones so far today, and that's an important component, but I would say that's one of the three important components of the program. The actual zones that the governor gets to designate as this is a place where you can make this sort of investment changes a little bit because of the OBBB. But that's not really where the change is, and that's not really what we would be conforming to per se in the conformity bill. What we're really looking at is the incentive that taxpayers get to make these investments as an item of taxable income, and that's what's really going to change. And that's, as you say, separate from the actual area of development. So if you'd bear with me, this is a very complicated area, and I think it might help to step back and give a little bit of context, if that would be okay.
Please.
I think this is useful. I've seen some commentators refer to opportunity zones were created in the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, and that's often now referred to as Opportunity Zones 1.0, because what is being proposed here is a very significant change from the original scheme. Opportunity Zones 1.0 was a very deliberate policy choice to incentivize investment immediately. It was supposed to be a very quick hit of investment. The tax benefits were phased in such that You couldn't really get all the federal tax benefits unless you invested by some point in 2019. Recall that this is an act that passed in late December of 2017. So you had a little over a year to make your investment, and you get the tax and you get the full benefit of the tax treatment. One component of it is the governor says, I'm going to designate these tracts that meet this. At the time in 2017, it was 80% of area median income. And the governor gets to designate so many of those according to such and such procedures. And qualified opportunity funds, QOFs, if you've been looking at the literature, can make investments in those and offer these tax benefits to their investors. So that's one side of it. And DACD spoke to the development that seems to have come from that. What the program is designed to do is to open up capital to invest in these relatively risky projects that aren't being capitalized otherwise, that people don't view as economically viable. The way that subsidy works is twofold. So these are the other two things to keep an eye on, and these are the things with the more direct conformity link today. First is if you are if you're an individual or whatever, and you have a substantial capital gain, then by investing the proceeds of that capital gain into a qualified opportunity fund within a certain period of, I believe, 180 days, you can defer recognition of that gain. Okay. So the classic case of this, let's say you're a dentist and you sell your practice, you're ready to retire, you sell your practice, you've got $1 million capital gain. You're going to be taxed on that immediately. But if you roll some portion of that into an opportunity zone investment, then you don't get taxed on that immediately. Now, you can roll that into any opportunity zone. You can roll that into an opportunity zone down the street, or I think what we actually saw in the market, again, anecdotally, but certainly what I see in the secondary literature, is that a lot of banks are creating these funds, and they're saying we're only going to invest in this sort of thing, but we're going to invest in some in Maine and some in New York and some in California. And so you take the proceeds from the sale of your business and you invest in the fund, and then that fund invests in dozens of these projects around the country. If you are a Maine resident, then some of that money may be going to Maine projects, some of it may not. If you're a New York resident, some of your money may wind up in Maine, some of it may not. The tax benefit that you get is you get deferral. If you hold under 1.0, if you hold that investment for more than 5 years, 10% of that capital gain just goes away. Your basis is increased 10%. So effectively you get to take 10% of your gain, doesn't get taxed ever. And if you hold it for 7 years under 1.0, then 15% of your gain goes away entirely. And then if you hold that opportunity zone, again, under 1.0, if you hold that opportunity zone investment for a full 10 years, which requires you to get in very, very quickly, because under current law, under 1.0, this was all scheduled to expire at the end of 2026. But if you manage it just right, you would be able to get all appreciation excluded from tax. Again, that's 1.0. So that's two big tax benefits. You get the step up in basis on this gain that you've already recognized, or that you recognize but aren't being taxed on. And you also get appreciation tax-free in your investment in the Opportunity Zone Fund. Okay, 2.0 changes a little bit on the edges of what the governor gets to designate as an opportunity zone. You go from 80% of area median income to 70%. So it has to be a somewhat poorer zone than it was in the original. And also it becomes permanent. So it's this, 10-year cliff doesn't exist anymore. It's now, this is a permanent feature of the tax code. Also, there's no longer that 15% exclusion. You get, if you hold on to the investment for 5 years, you're going to get 10% basis step up. So 10% of your capital gain does not get taxed. You're taxed on 90% of the capital gain from, again, in the example, you sold your dental practice, you got $1 million, you have $1 million gain. You're only going to be taxed on $900,000 if you hold on to the OZ investment. We call it a Applied Opportunity Fund investment for 5 years. There is no 15% if you hold on to it for 7 years. And the other thing is this new 2.0 creates these rural zones, which are zones that have populations of under 50,000 people and some other conditions. If the fund that you invest in, if the Qualified Opportunity Fund you invest in, it invests primarily in those rural funds, then you can get up to 30% of your basis written up. So you can exclude 30% of the gain as long as you hold your investment for more than 5 years. And also, if you hold under 2.0, if you hold your investment for more than 10 years, then essentially the gain that you recognize on the investment as you are holding it will be marked up to market. So essentially you won't have gain on your opportunity zone fund investment after, even if you go up to 30 years. If you sell it in 30 years, the appreciation that you have received for your investment in this opportunity zone business, which I'm again trying to distinguish from the original gain you had when you sold your dental practice or whatever, that gets excluded. So when we talk about how conformity works, what we're really talking about is, think about the dentist who sells her practice and has this capital gain, invests in a qualified opportunity fund, may or may not have some investments in Maine, but would not recognize a capital gain because of the investment, would get 10% of that capital gain excluded if she holds the investment for at least 5 years. And then also, if she holds the investment for 10 years, this new investment gets to not be taxed on appreciation that accrues. Very complicated program, very brief overview, but I just wanted to provide that context because I think there are a lot of moving parts, frankly. So with that said, I don't remember what the original question was.
Rep Sayer.
I followed all of that. That was excellent.
Thank you.
But now I have follow-up questions. So two things. So there's no obvious nexus or there's no definite nexus between a taxpayer being in Maine and an opportunity zone being in Maine.
Correct.
Those who invest in Maine opportunity zones could be anywhere in the country. Mainers could be investing in opportunity zones anywhere in the country.
Correct. And I would say my understanding of the commercial practice with 1.0, these are by definition somewhat risky investments, and we're talking axiomatically about your life savings. So they tended to be very diversified. So the likelihood is you would be investing in a bunch of different projects.
In a fund rather than just directly into one specific zone. Got it. If Maine decoupled, does that mean Maine would not be able to designate opportunity zones?
No, or certainly decoupling would be theoretically possible. I would think not. I suppose you could write it in a way that the governor didn't have the capacity to do that, but
No, what I want to get at was if Maine chose, and I'm not saying that's where I'm at, but if Maine chose not to conform to this particular tax break for investors, would Maine still be able to designate opportunity zones that would direct the benefit of opportunity zone investing to Maine if Maine designated such spaces?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
For the purposes of federal tax.
Correct.
breaks.
They would get all the federal tax benefit. The governor would be able to designate, you can invest in Millinocket, say, and opportunity zone funds could decide to put an investment in Millinocket, say, and Maine investors or New York investors or anybody else could go ahead and put their money to work there. Yes.
Representative Swallow?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So it sounds like some similarities between the qualified small business stock gain exclusion. It sounds somewhat similar in some ways, increasing appreciation and, et cetera. If you hold for 5 years or you wait, that's been changed too. So I know a step, but so if I understand this correctly, if Maine did decouple to follow up, you'd get all the federal tax breaks, but not the state tax breaks. So we still have opportunity zones. Is that correct?
Yes, I think so. I understand what you're saying about the similarities to qualified small business stocks, but there's the devil's always in the details.
Just to some.
But I would say, again, if you think about the dentist who sells their practice, yes, if Maine did not couple, if the governor's proposal was rejected, and Maine did not couple to that, then that individual would have a capital gain that they would not recognize at the federal level immediately, but they would recognize in Maine. 5 years from now, they would recognize that capital gain at the federal level, and in Maine, since they've already recognized it, that would be subtracted from their Maine return. And let's say they hold the fund opportunity, they hold the fund for 10 years. And they have gain on their investment in the investment fund when they sell it. That would be excluded at the federal level, but would be added back at the main level. That's right.
Thank you.
Further questions on our opportunity zones? Okay, Representative Swallow, I'm not going to put you on the spot unless you want to be, but I did hear you bring up the too many pages here. The QSBS there, number 19. I didn't know if anyone had any other questions about that qualified expansion of qualified small
No.
business stock gain exclusion. That was the other one you had brought up, I think. No, Representative Swallow?
I did. I think Representative Friedman had brought it up earlier, but I just brought it up as a comparative to the opportunity zone and depreciation, and how you get to write off. That's all. I just wasn't referring to it and whether I was in favor.
Okay. All right, so for items, I had lumped items number 11 through 26 together, and then Senator Bickford had a motion to that end. Do committee members have any further questions about any of those items? Dan D'Alessandro has a comment or a question for us.
Well, my name is Daniel D'Alessandro. I'm Deputy Tax Policy Counsel in the Office of Tax Policy. I'm sorry, I just wanted to make one clarification on item 20.
Yes.
Which is the paid family medical leave credit. So that one's a little different from the rest of these on this list. The governor is proposing to allow the state paid family medical leave credit to expire at the end of 2025, as it was scheduled to expire under pre-03B law. And Senator Bickford, you had a question about this that I would like to clarify my answer to. So you asked, I'm paraphrasing, but you asked about what effect the credit would continue to have now that we have the paid family medical leave program. The credit has an exclusion for benefits that are paid under a state mandated program. You can't also get the credit if you're required to make those payments. Our analysis indicated that that is true also of the companies that opt out of the state program and offer their own program. But the IRS would make the final call on that, and they have not issued guidance. And then another wrinkle is the credit would be available for payments that were made that went beyond what the state mandated. That being said, we're estimating that if there was conformity to the state credit, it would be much smaller. It's already a small credit, and it would become much smaller because we have the state mandated program. And at the federal level, this credit is the program. At the state level, we have a comprehensive program. And so the governor has proposed not to extend it because that duplication isn't needed.
Senator Bickford.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So, Mr. D'Alessandro, I think some of my question also surrounded, there are a lot of businesses, I think you just brought it up, that do well beyond what the state mandate is, and they don't subscribe to the state program because they have their own program. Are you saying they would not qualify to be able to get a state credit or at least write those off as expenses on their tax return?
So the credit and the expenses are separate.
Okay.
And they'll continue to be able to deduct their ordinary necessary business expenses.
Okay.
This would not change that.
Okay.
If they did offer benefits that went above the state mandated amount under the governor's proposal, they could get the credit at the federal level, but not at the state level.
Okay, but they still could claim that as an ordinary business expense. Is that right? Okay. So just to follow up, and I don't want to get into any other committee jurisdiction or anything else, but I just want to ask, are these companies that already have their plans, are they going to be reimbursed for the expenses they've had for the first year of the Paid Family Medical Leave Act? Do you know?
I'm not prepared to
Yeah,
answer that kind of question.
wrong committee, I'm sorry, but I just like to get that information. Thank you.
Thank you for the follow-up information. So that was number 20. Were there any other items that folks needed more information on in that grouping? Are there any items that members wish to single out and vote on separately? We could just identify that now, and then we could have a cleaner way to do this. Representative Friedman and then Representative Sayer.
Yeah, I'd like to vote on number 19, the qualified small business stocking exclusions.
Okay.
And I guess I'm still uncertain about 24, the opportunity zones.
Okay. Representative Sayer.
I just wanted to ask if the senator would repeat his motion so I know which numbers are in before suggesting ones that might be out of that group.
Senator Bickford.
Yeah, my motion was to move in item 11 through 26, but I will make the exception if Representative Friedman wants to keep 19 separate. I can move in 11 through 18 and 20 through 26, if that would be the preference.
Okay, let's see if there's anyone else that wants any other items singled out for separate votes. Representative Harriman.
I was leaning along the same lines with 19 and with 24.
Okay. Any others? Okay, Senator Bickford, are you amenable to moving
I
in 11
certainly
through
am.
18, 20 through 23, and then 25 and 26
Yes,
as
that's-
a block?
That will be my motion.
Okay, excellent. That was Senator Bickford's amended motion. And thank you, Representative White, for your agreeable second.
Yeah, no, I seconded that one.
You can have it back if you want it.
No, I don't need it back, I'm fine. I just figured,
Keep it all together.
I'm less strict about it in these straw poll
Right.
situations.
There I go again, stepping on our toes.
Oh, well, someday you'll learn.
if we don't harass somebody sometime,
Yeah,
you know.
we don't have enough
we don't
fun.
have enough fun.
Okay, so we will have the second go to Representative White, if anyone's taking note. Okay, so any other information that members need on items 11 through 18, 20 through 23, 25, or 26? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor of moving all those into the budget as proposed currently? We have Representative Swallow, Representative Harriman, Representative Quint, Representative Rudnicki, Representative Matlack, Representative Sayer, Senator Grabowski, Senator Bickford, Representative Levine, Representative Friedman, Representative White, and Representative Crockett. Is unanimous of those present, and absent is Senator Tipping. Okay, number 19. Is there a motion? Representative Harriman.
Not exactly a motion,
Okay.
but I just wanted to clarify. I think we learned before that it seems like a pretty small loss in 2029, but then I think we were told before that it was 3 to 4 million a year after that. I just wanted to confirm that.
Is there anyone who can confirm that?
19.
For item 19, expansion of qualified small business stock gain exclusion, the question is, what happens to the fiscal impact after FY 2029? Can you turn your microphone on? Sorry. I'm the microphone police today.
I will only forget that 40 times. But, I apologize. You are correct. And the reason that the fiscal note on this one looks odd is because the federal change only applies to stock issued after whatever it was, July 3rd, I believe, 2025, and then you have to hold it for at least 3 years.
Senator Bickford?
Sounds like a great program to me, to help startups. Would you agree with that?
I know, uh, I know, I know a lot of lawyers who, when they talk to, startup businesses, calculate this on the spreadsheet. Yes, sir.
Calculate this on a spreadsheet? Is that what you said?
I was in private practice until this time last year. I was in private practice, and a lot of what we do is advise businesses on choice of entity considerations, and certainly the qualified small business stock exclusion goes into the calculations of choice of entity that a lot of businesses make these days, because there is, if you are in a qualified industry, so and so, so on and so forth, it can represent depending on your exit strategy and stage of development and so forth, it can represent a very substantial savings.
Representative Sayer and then Representative Freeman.
So you said choice of entity, and I think what I want to get at with this question is whether Maine would be putting Maine entities at a disadvantage to entities in other states if we were to decouple from this exclusion and entities in other states did not decouple, or if we would be creating a disincentive to cite your startup in Maine if you had the opportunity to situate it in another state that offered this benefit.
I don't think I'm fairly confident that we've not run the numbers on that. I don't know if there would be a way to make reasonable and reliable estimates of the numbers on that. Certainly there is a logic to it. I will say most of the benefit that people are thinking about is at the federal level, right? You at the federal level, you would likely be taxed 23% on this stock. The Maine is an additional kicker on that, but it's not driving the decisions in the same way that federal tax law is. But on the other hand, I suppose if I were, again, sometimes I like to think about the axiomatic case that this goes to, the most obvious case that this would apply to, and it's usually employees of startup companies. And it is certainly the case that if I was deciding between a job with a startup in, let's say, Massachusetts, assuming they do couple, and Maine, and I'm expecting that my exit strategy is going to be, I'm going to get this stock, and 5 years from now, we'll go public, and I will be able to exclude a lot of it. That would be a more valuable benefit in a job in a state that is coupled with this than in a state that isn't.
Representative Freeman.
Wouldn't you agree that the qualified small business stock exemption actually benefits businesses with assets up to $75 million, and that this would benefit primarily those with higher incomes?
I should clarify slightly that under the law as it current, under the O3B, you're correct. It's up to 75 million. Under current law and the law that Maine conforms to as of now, it's 50 million. Does it mostly benefit higher incomes? I mean, if you join a company that goes bust, then this provision isn't going to help you. If you are benefiting from this provision, it's because you have stock in a company that has appreciated significantly, probably appreciated a great deal. And by definition, the year that you sell that stock or that there's an IPO or anything else, you're going to be, I would think most people in that situation are going to be in very high tax brackets in the year of sale, certainly. Is that it? I don't know if that's an answer.
I guess just I'm looking at who's actually benefiting from this conformity, and it looks like a few years out that those that are benefiting would be businesses with assets up to $75 million, which is, I wouldn't say that's a small business, and that it would benefit those with higher incomes. I mean, to get that benefit, you'd have to have made a killing, and should Maine be subsidizing people in that income bracket.
Whether Maine should be subsidizing people in that income bracket is above my pay grade, of course, but I would say, we're talking by definition about people who own stock in startup companies. What are the demographics of people who own stock in startup companies? I don't know. Certainly, most people do not own that sort of stock. Beyond that, I don't know that I have data that I can.
I saw Representative Swallow and then Senator Bickford.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Are you aware, I may not be aware, but the surrounding New England states, have they been conforming to this in the past? I know you couldn't tell me if they're conforming now to the new one, but in the past, has it been pretty much conformed to by the New England states?
I don't know the answer to that. I wish I knew the answer to that, but I don't.
Senator Bickford.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to respond. Companies that have revenues up to 75 million, a $500,000 company would qualify under that term up to $75 million. And looking at who would invest in startups, it would be very, very hard for me to understand that it would be families making less than $100,000 a year. They wouldn't have the money to put into these startups. So obviously it's an obvious, you need the money in the startups and it's a risk. It's a highly risky adventure. When you put money into a startup, you have no idea. If you can guess all you want that startup is going to be successful and you're going to get a return in 5 years. The reality, what is it? 80% of all small businesses fail in the first 2 years. So, yeah, you want these people with money spending their money here in Maine on startups. That's.
You're yelling.
No,
You're yelling at me? We can take this out in the hallway.
I'm just really passionate about this. We need people spending money in Maine.
Representative Swallow. Oh, Dan, let me go to you.
Could I just offer a very quick clarification? On the 50 versus $75 million number, I just want to make sure that has to do with the gross assets of the company at the time the stock is issued. When we were talking about opportunity zones, we talked about 31 million being the limit for small business, and that related to income. I just want to be clear that in this case, we're talking about gross assets at the time the stock is issued. That's correct. Yes, sir. Yes, but it's assets, not income. That's all I wanted to clarify.
Thank you, Representative Swallow and then Representative Sarah.
I was going to clarify on the assets versus the income as
Okay.
well. So he stole my thunder, right?
Oh, well, I'm glad there's more
I
than one
apologize.
person keeping track.
That was what I meant.
Representative Sayer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Mr. Pittman. And I'm still wrestling with the insights that have been shared from different perspectives on this one, because there are a lot of different ways to get on the cap table of a startup. One is to be a person of some net worth who's put their capital in. Some can be a person of virtually no net worth, but is on the team. But what we're talking about here is when the individuals on the cap table make bank somewhere down the road, and whether it's important for Maine to spend a tax expenditure on those individuals when they've made bank, when they've had a substantial return on their position in a company that has been very successful. Am I describing what this incentive does in more or less accurate terms?
I think that is precisely right. Yeah, I think that, yes.
Representative Harriman.
Thank you. To follow up on that, so if somebody invested in one of these startup businesses and it didn't do that well,
they wouldn't see this benefit. Is that correct?
This excludes gain on stock. So if the stock doesn't gain, if the company goes bust, then you're correct. Now, if it, was a modest success, there might be modest savings, but yes, if it fails, then it's of no use.
Just so members know, I have had a request to caucus number 19 and number 24 before we do vote those. With that being said, is there any more information members would like on 19 and 24 before we move on? Okay. I would propose we finish working through the conformity items here in table C before we do take that caucus. Yes.
Could I offer one more point of clarification
Absolutely.
that I should have mentioned on qualified small business stock? This is just to guide your thinking on what you're voting for. Under the 2017 Act, this treatment exists. Qualified small business stockholders have this expectation. The 2025 Act modifies that treatment. It expands it a little bit, makes it a little bit different. If we do not conform to this provision, naturally what that would mean is we just stay with the 2017 law, which would be complicated because that's no longer the federal law. So that would be problematic. On the other hand, if we say we're not going to conform, we're going to not conform with the 2025 Act, and we're going to just get rid of this idea of the qualified small business stock exclusion entirely and not follow the 2017 Act, that would be, as a matter of administration, I think, relatively straightforward. But it would mean that people that have been working, that got stock, in a startup 3-4 years ago, and have been counting on an exit, would not get the benefit that they want. So I just want to clarify that to not conform with the governor's proposal is not necessarily to have a clear answer as to what's happening with qualified small business stock. And I'll leave it.
Would we need to?
Senator Bickford?
I'm sorry. Would they need to then do an income modification because we wouldn't be conforming?
Certainly, if we did not conform, there would have to be some form of income modification. My point is, if we don't conform, we have to figure out what that looks like. And either that means we're recreating the 2017 system that no longer exists at the federal level, in which case nobody in Maine who has been relying on the 2017 system is worse off, except to the extent that they don't get benefits that they would have gotten for the 25 Act.
And there may be a lot of amended returns this year if we didn't go along with this.
I wouldn't think so, because the changes are forward-looking in this provision only. This is distinct from a lot of other provisions in that this only applies to stock issued after, I believe it's January 3rd, 2025.
Okay.
And then you have to hold it for at least 3 years, up to 5 years.
Rep. Sayer, did you have a question?
Thank you. I was about to say, Madam Senator, Madam Chair, Senator Chair.
Senator Lawrence told us to call him the Grand Oompa today in the Senate while he was presiding. So it's really up for grabs.
Not going there.
I think he meant poobah, but
So I know we're having a lot of fun here on which page am I on? With QSBS, but now I want to go back to OZ, opportunity zones. That you just made the point that not conforming would leave Maine in a position of having TCJA treatment in effect for the state of Maine, while OB3 treatment would be in effect for the federal government, and that might be a messy place to be. Is the same true of opportunity zones if we were to not conform there?
It's not nearly as bad, because under the 2017 Act, opportunity zones just go away. They turn into a pumpkin at December 31st, 2026. So there might be some, I'd have to think through what happens for the rest of this year, I suppose, but there is no opportunity zone program under the 2017 Act as of next January 1st.
Got it.
Got it. Thank you.
That's right. Okay, so further questions on 19 and 24? Representative Swallow.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a clarification on 19. So if we do not conform, we just leave it. It's as is right now, and as it was in 2017. But if we actually go away, just say, no, we're no longer going to have the small business qualified stock exemption. Those that in the past that counted on it are out completely going forward. If we say no to even its existence any further.
A couple of answers to that. First of all, obviously nothing we do can affect anything at the federal level, so they still get all the federal benefits they're entitled to. I think what the point I'm trying to make, that's not quite the point that I'm trying to make. I don't think that's necessarily right. The point I'm trying to make is if we do not conform, then we have some choices to make about what we want to do. And the only two logical choices that I see would be to say, to heck with it, we're just getting rid of qualified small business stock exclusions entirely, in which case you're absolutely right. Or to say, we're going to let you stay under the rules that existed in 2017, even though they no longer exist at the federal level, in which case we have a lot of work to do in trying to figure out how that's going to work or be administratively feasible.
Follow-up, Representative Swallow.
Yeah. So we again, yeah, I understand that. So let's say we do say to heck with it. So what they thought they were going to get going forward, they're not going to get it all if we say to heck with it.
If
Right.
With respect to the state of Maine,
Yes,
if
with
you
the
were,
rank with Maine, yeah.
if you voted not to adopt the governor's proposal and came back with language saying on this particular point, we're decoupling and we're just doing an add back of the qualified small business stock, then that's right. People who have been, suppose you've been an employee at a startup and you've been looking for an IPO, you've been there for about 4 years, you're expecting an IPO in a year or two, you would have been thinking that you would get this benefit under Maine law. You would have up until now, but you would not after that change.
Okay, see nothing else on number 19 or number 24. So we will pause on those. I will move us to table C on page 25 of the consolidated report. This is the indirect conformity items relevant to Maine's consideration of the 2025 Act. The first was number 27, increase the standard deduction. That item has been proposed by the governor to be phased in. And so the fiscal note for phasing it in versus immediately conforming, if you look at page 16 of the commissioner's testimony, it's the second item, second row down there. So no cost in FY 26 and then cost of 29 million, 32 million in 27 and 28. So those are the differences there. The committee members have questions on this item. Representative Crockett.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Just, like Dan earlier, just with the math. Basically, is the net effect of this is no benefit on the main income tax statement in 2026?
Do you mean like for people filing their 2025 in 2026 or their 2026 tax year that they file in 2027, or do you mean something totally different?
Well, I'm just noting that on the governor's proposal, 2026 is 0. Whereas
Fiscal year 2026.
fiscal year 2026 is 0. Whereas obviously on the federal one, it would have been 42 million. And then the other 3 years kind of line up fairly close to each other. So it just feels like just there is no increased benefit for 2026 in the governor's proposal.
I think that's right.
Tax year.
Tax year 2026.
Yeah. 50% tax year 2026.
There's yeah, right. We would get 50% of the pickup in tax year 2026.
And no fiscal year 26 impacts.
Okay.
Are further questions on this line? Representative Sayer.
I'd like to move in item 27 using the governor's plan for phasing it in as articulated in the second line on the table of page 16 of the commissioner's testimony dated February 19th.
Thank you, Representative Sayer. Is there a second to that motion? Representative Freeman has seconded. Any debate or discussion about that? Are we ready for a straw poll vote? Senator Bickford.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I take my federal adjusted gross income, which is after my standard deduction.
No.
It's not. That's before my standard deduction. So there would be no modification. I wouldn't need to because I would have my federal adjusted gross income, and then I would do my own standard deduction in Maine, which is separate from federal, right? So I wouldn't have to worry about doing another worksheet, right?
Off the top of my head, I would think it wouldn't be a worksheet.
So-
It would be a
Right,
married, just single,
right.
exact style.
Okay. Yeah, you know what I meant.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
We will take a break shortly, I think. But I don't know if you'll be able to fit in a nap. Okay, are folks comfortable voting this one now, or do people need to table it for caucus? Okay. So the motion was to support the phased in standard deduction as proposed by the supplemental budget. A different way to phrase that. All those in favor, Representative Crockett.
Yeah, just clarifying. So the deduction we're talking about that the federals are proposing, that is obviously for the federal tax form. So all Maine residents will get that full standard deduction in the year one on their federal form. And this proposes just 50% on the Maine form.
The main standard deduction is separate from the federal deduction as a matter of law.
Right.
But as I understand the history, we have traditionally, Maine law has said that the amount is the same as the amount that is set under federal law. Not that that's a conformity item, not that changing the date of conformity to the federal code would do that automatically. The feds increased the standard deduction this year. Changing the date wouldn't do anything, but we're proposing to give half of the increase this year and fully going forward.
Impacts the income tax return
Yes.
only.
This entire, yeah. Nothing we do impacts the federal tax return, just to be clear.
Fingers crossed.
We may inspire them to change things in the future by our brilliant policy making, but it's not going to change the tax return. Okay, Folks ready to vote on this item, number 27, as modified by the governor's proposal? All right, all those in favor of the motion, please indicate by raising your hands. We have Representative Harriman, Representative Matlack, Representative Sayer, Senator Gurkowski, Representative Friedman, and Representative Crockett. All those opposed? Representative Swallow, Representative Quint, Representative Rudnicki, Senator Bickford, and Representative White. And for those opposed, excuse me, Representative Levine, I don't know, you're slouching back and I just, yeah, no, it was your fault this time.
Now you're catching up.
Okay, Representative Levine definitely wants to vote against the motion. Senator Bickford.
I believe that our motion is that we fully conform with the federal deduction. Just that one piece alone would cost the average married couple $90 each year in the first 2 years before it's enacted.
Okay, thank you, Senator Bickford. Is all members in agreement with that? Okay. Excellent, thank you. All right, number 28. This is the 0.5% floor on deduction of contributions made by individuals, charitable contributions, I believe, made by individuals. The governor has proposed to indirectly conform to this item, is my understanding. Do committee members have questions about that? Senator Bickford.
Thank you. My question is that this is a very standard $200,000 exactly each year. How do you come out with such a round number?
I might turn that over to Dr. Allen. I run.
It's an estimate, Senator.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an estimate.
Is it a good estimate or a bad estimate? Thank you.
Representative Quint.
Yes, thank you. Back to the guesstimate. I'm just wondering, is that from historically what the average has been? And then you all put it out through the years, or does that fluctuate year to year usually?
I mean, we have limited information on this. And the other piece is that while we follow federal itemized deductions, Maine has a cap on their itemized deductions. Plus, we phase out our itemized deductions for high income taxpayers. Plus, the higher standard deduction results in most people not itemizing either at the federal level or at the state level. So it's just, it's relatively small because we just don't have a lot of itemizers at the state level anymore.
Representative Quint.
Thank you. And I'm just clarifying for myself, with the deductions, I remember in the past when you did the standard deduction, you were able to do the contributions when they weren't itemized. And this is going back into that. It's stating though that we're not conforming this year, but conforming next year to that. Am I correct?
So this is limiting, for those people that itemize, this is limiting your charitable contributions at the federal level. And we're piggybacking, the governor's proposing to conform to that, to follow that limitation at the federal level. The next item down is a new deduction for those that don't itemize at the federal level. You can deduct up to $1,000 of charitable contributions if you're single and $2,000 for joint filers. And the governor is proposing to conform to that. But she's proposing to phase in conformity to that deduction.
Representative Quinn.
Thank you. And I'm sorry because I have jumped ahead to 29. They're sort of in conjunction in my mind just because they're the charitable contributions. But for the year 2026, then the 775,000, and then we go up to 9 million. And the next year, why only 775? Is it because of the amount allowed for the phase in? I don't have that other sheet right in front of me. I'm just going on page 25 of the 26.
Yep. So page 25 is if we conformed to the federal charitable contribution for non-itemizers, this is the fiscal note that would go along with that. That's different than what the governor has proposed, which is on on page 16 of the commissioner's testimony. I'm just trying to find that item. Oh, there it is. It's almost at the very bottom of it.
Yep, it's the second one up from the bottom.
So with the page 16, then that there are no deductions then until 2028, is that correct?
In the governor's proposal for tax year 2027, she's proposing that Maine residents would get a charitable deduction equal to 50% of their federal. And then starting in tax year 27, I'm sorry, and starting in tax year 28, you'd get exactly what you get at the federal level.
Okay, thank you.
Further questions on line 28? Well, I think I would like to keep them separate for the purposes of voting. So any motion on 28, Senator Bickford?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to move in item 28.
Okay.
As proposed by the supplemental budget.
Okay. Seconded by Representative Friedman. Thank you.
Very enthusiastic.
Yeah. And there hasn't even been any cookies. Any further debate or discussion on number 28? All right, seeing none, all in favor of the motion to move this item into the budget, please indicate by raising your hands. We have Representative Swallow, Representative Harriman, Representative Sayer, Senator Grahowski, Senator Bickford, not Representative Levine, Representative Friedman, and Representative Crockett. All those who are opposed. We have Representative Quint, Representative Rudnicki, Representative Levine, and Representative White. And for those opposed, your proposal is Representative Rudnicki.
Full conformity.
Full conformity, which is what we've just voted for.
No, you voted on the governor's, which
On number 28, the governor's proposal is full conformity.
Yeah. Okay, you'll get it next time.
Representative Quinn.
Thank you. Well, yes, because I wrote down the notes for both 28 and 29 being the 27, 28 tax years, the way they were both being phased in. And so 28 is being phased in fully, and that's why the 200, no,
28 does not have a phase in. It's an immediate conformity.
you're immediate.
29.
right.
Well, my confusion was in 26 because it's saying 0. So federally, it's not phasing in yet until 27 as well.
I'm
Is that
sorry,
correct?
I should be clear. Line number 28, not fiscal year 28. It's got that, I think has confused us.
Thank you.
Line 28 is an immediate conformity item under the supplemental budget proposal.
It doesn't show cost until 20.
Indirect conformity item.
26 is tax.
Yes.
So now that I.
Okay, sorry for that.
Motion to reconsider.
I make a motion to reconsider.
Okay, all those in favor of reconsidering?
Okay.
Okay.
Excellent, thank you. Okay, so number 28, the motion is to move in from Senator Bickford.
Yeah, move in as
Agreed.
proposed in the supplemental.
And so Representative Friedman will second that again. All those in favor of that at this point?
Okay.
Great. Representative Swallow, Representative Harriman, Representative Quint, Representative Rudnicki, Representative Sayer, Senator Grahowski, Senator Bickford, Representative Levine, Representative Freeman, and Representative White, and Representative Crockett. I'm gonna auctioneer soon enough. Working on it. Thank you all. And that's why we ask what the alternative motion is, because then we clear things up. Perfect. Okay, so next is item number 29. Charitable contribution deduction for federal non-itemizers. This is the one that the governor has proposed to phase in. Further, any conversation on this or a motion? Representative Sayer.
I make a motion to move in line 29 as phased by the governor and articulated on
Do whatever you want.
I need to pause.
We can caucus this if members are interested, or we can entertain a different member making a different motion.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll put it on the caucus list. Item number 28 is going on the caucus list.
28 or 29?
Excuse me, 29.
That's
I am so sorry.
the problem with all.
I need more columns for my notes. Okay. Items number 30, 31, 32, and 33 are all or indirect conformity items that the governor has not proposed to conform to. I'm willing to take those in a block.
I'll make it.
Senator Bickford,
I'm gonna make a motion that we do not comply with the supplemental budget, but we indirectly conform immediately to all 4 items.
okay, there's a motion from Senator Bickford, seconded by Representative Levine. Debate, discussion, or more information needed on any or all of these items. Representative Crockett?
Yeah, I was okay with a couple of them, but
You want to take them separately?
I
We
would, I
can.
would like to take them separately, I guess, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I like his idea separately.
Are members gonna want to caucus these before we separate them all out?
I think we can vote. What do you want to do? Oh,
No,
Yeah.
but it appears as though other members would like to, and so I would like them to be able to have that opportunity.
So with that being said, is there any information that committee members are seeking on these items before we would break for a caucus? Okay, seeing none. I think that does get us all the way through the conformity related items. And of course, there's language that would have to be reshuffled depending on how we vote, but I don't want to look at that right now. All right, I would propose, Representative Swall?
Madam Chair, just for clarity, it's other than those last 4, it's 29, 19, and 24 are the ones that are, those are the 3,
And also number 10,
10.
the R and D phase in
Okay.
for large R and
Thank
D. And there was a motion on the floor on that one.
Yeah.
But no motions, and there's a motion on this latest one.
10, 19, 24.
10, 19, 24, 29, 30 through 33. That's what I have. All right, we will break for a caucus and to cool off out of this room.
If you have the commissioners,
Um. Yeah, let's do for quarter of, also because I need to liaise with the EUT situation because they want my votes on the budget by 4 PM and I have no idea what they've done over there today. So I might take a personal couple extra minutes for that. So quarter of is our intended return time. Thank you. Okay, we are back. Thank you, everyone. I will report back from our caucus that members are interested in getting a little more information on items 10, 19, and 24. That was R&D, QSBS, and the opportunity zones. But our caucus is positioned to vote on line 29, 30 through 33, and then we've had a request to reconsider a previous vote. So that's just sort of our update for the viewing audience. So item number 29 was the charitable contribution deduction for federal non-itemizers. And the full effect of that is in the consolidated report, and the governor had proposed phase-in of that. And I believe we are looking for a motion. Representative Friedman.
Madam Chair, I move to move line 29 out to not agree with the governor on charitable contribution deductions.
Okay, and just to clarify that, not only not agree with the governor's way of proposing it, but also just not including it at the full cost as well?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you, Representative Friedman. So our second by Representative Harriman. Is there any debate or discussion about this? Representative Rednicki.
Thank you, Madam Chair. If you could, when we take each individual votes, please just reiterate what's a yes, what's a no.
Yeah.
That way I don't get confused and
out, left,
that's
right.
right.
Totally
Just to make it
understood.
easier, especially where we're dealing with two separate. We're dealing with the governors and we're dealing what's in front of us. It's
Yeah.
kind of it will make it easier. Thank you.
Representative Sayer and then Senator Bickford.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Trying to make life easy for Representative Rudnicki.
Thank you.
Is it correct, Representative Friedman, that the impact of your motion is to zero out line 29? So instead of the governor's proposal of about a $4.9 million cost in 2028 and a $10 million cost in 2029, those numbers would be zero.
That's correct.
Okay, now I'm confused.
Okay, Rep Rudnicki.
Okay, I want full conformity. So with his motion, zeroing it out is not full conformity, correct?
That's
Okay.
correct, except for this isn't really conformity, but we don't need to delineate above the line and below the line deductions
Okay.
and all that. It's conformity adjacent in my mind. It's indirect. Indirect. Yep. So the federal government proposed a below the line deduction for people that are non-itemizers to write off their charitable donations up to $1,000. And the governor proposed to phase that in. Rep Friedman's motion is saying, don't do it at all.
Okay.
And folks who disagree with that then and want to do the same thing the federal government did would vote no.
Thank you. That explains exactly what I was looking for.
Excellent. Senator Bickford.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to say, I don't remember how many years ago it was now that Maine actually took the lead on standard deduction before the federal government did. And when we did, we really made it hard for people that don't need the itemized deductions anymore to get any benefit for donating to their local charities because they can't take a deduction for it. It's very hard, and we all know here that to itemize deductions, you have to, first of all, you have to expend over $15,000 just to be able to itemize. So by not allowing non-itemizers to get any kind of benefit at all from being able to get a benefit from donating to charities like the Red Cross, the Dempsey Center, any of your local nonprofits, it makes it really hard for those nonprofits to succeed without coming to the state with their hands out, asking the state to fund them. I would much rather see them funded by citizens that can take a small amount of deduction for making that contribution to that nonprofit. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Bickford. Representative Friedman?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. So what we're talking about here is allowing whether we should allow individuals to be able to deduct 1,000 or a married couple filing jointly 2,000 for charitable contributions. And I'm actually in the philanthropy business. That's what I do for a living. And
Good.
Facilitate?
I facilitate nonprofits to raise money from charitable contributions. And usually when we're training people how to ask for money, we say that don't lead with, and you're going to get a charitable deduction for giving. Like, that's not why people give. People give because they believe in the worthiness of the cause, and or they know the organization, they're involved in it personally. It may be a church that they belong to, where they're getting significant benefits from. In this case, we're not negating their ability to take the federal deduction. They'll still get that. What we're saying is that should they get the 5 or 6, or 7% back on, so $60, $70 back on $1,000 contribution, is that going to make the difference between whether they give or not? And I would say that that's not going to do it. And I think that we don't need to subsidize charitable giving at that level. It doesn't work.
Wow.
Shelley, you can go first.
Okay, we're gonna go for Red Nikki.
I have to totally disagree with you. And the reason I'm going to say that is because a lot of people give even a couple dollars or do something like that, and they don't claim it necessarily. So being able to do this and get it so that for example, I work a lot with nonprofits in my community, helping different things in my community. I drive here, I drive there. I don't write those mileages down. If I was going to, I'd probably get more than 1,000, but I don't bother. But a lot of people that are, say, smaller income earners than these nonprofits that are going out there getting a lot of money, maybe that makes a difference for them. But somebody that is just going through life, helping out their church, helping out their Grange, helping out the food pantry, having that available is a benefit to them, and they should be able to. And even if it's $90 on a senior citizen, or somebody that's making only $30,000 or $40,000 a year, it can make a big difference. So I want full conformity on this, because I think it's important to people to realize that all of these charitable things do make a difference. And that's what we need to get back to, is stop having the government with the handout and start letting people actually get credit for doing their volunteering stuff, and stop just handing money for not doing anything. This is not that. What this is people actually making a concerted effort to help. So you may think it's just handing them money, but I would rather do it this way than I would, just some of these other things. So I want full conformity on this.
Thank you. Representative Quint, did you need to add to that? Or did you want to, excuse me, add to that?
Yes, because I sort of want to add something different. I understand what you're saying, but taxpayer money is given to nonprofits without the public themselves stating where that money goes. We decide that in a lot of cases, or the grant groups that are handing out those monies. Whereas this is in particular where people themselves are giving that money. And so I do believe that they should be able to have a stake in where their money's going and still get a deduction for that. And not only that, back to what, Representative Rudnicki was saying, in the fact that we were talking about like the mileage that people get for the nonprofits when they're doing stuff for charity, and it was so minimal. And so, and that's like on the federal government, they're the ones that do that. We wrote a letter asking for them to increase that amount. And in a situation like this, the charities themselves can when you're providing to them, they can actually fill up the tanks with gas cards, that sort of thing. I just think it's a better way for people to be able to, in some instances, the charities to be able to compensate them back for the work that they do, so that people in my area that don't have a lot of money, they're not itemizing all of the areas out. They're willing to give their time, but having their gas tank filled back from these charities so the local people giving to them can also get some of that money back as well, knowing that it will be used locally to the charities that they actually want, not just where the state is handing over taxpayer money to nonprofits who are asking for it. This is individual giving, individual choices, and I think that they absolutely should have that deduction. So that's where I'm coming from with this.
Thank you very much. Rep. Sayer, you were next.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Very interesting conversation, but where I land on this is agreeing with quite a bit of the premise that I've heard from Representative Rudnicki and Representative Quint, but coming to a different conclusion, because this is about the state of Maine. This is a tax expenditure, and this is sharing a benefit, a tax benefit from the people of Maine to individuals making charitable contributions above and beyond what they may have. I haven't had to itemize in a great many years, and I still make the same level of charitable contributions. I just don't expect the people of Maine to subsidize me in that effort. And that's what we're debating here. So by zeroing this out, we're zeroing out the state of Maine's subsidy on people's charitable contributions to the nonprofits of their choice.
Does anyone feel they need more information or more debate before we vote on this? I think we've seen a lot of the pros and cons of the different ways of thinking. Rep. Crockett?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. In listening to that, and also just from my experience with charitable contributions, is there a middle ground between the proposal that is currently in front of us versus full conformity that we may want to consider, which would obviously be the governor's proposal?
I think the governor is proposing a phase into full conformity, not doing like a half.
Right. No,
It just happened 1 year.
Yeah. Yeah. But that's not like Representative Friedman's motion is to zero that out. I mean, I just think because all the time we've been spending on property taxes, that's $9 million. I'd rather send a direct property tax relief than to advantage folks who may have a high income but not deduct, or may not. I mean, I don't know. And that's just my personal feeling on it. And I'm not trying to persuade anyone, but I'm just, all else being equal, I'd rather spend the $9 million on things I hear people complaining about that are serious concerns for them. Rep. Rudnicki.
I would agree with you to an extent that won't happen. You have to remember what we're in for a time. We're not going to take that $9 million and give it as property tax release. It's just not going to happen. So I would rather give it so these people can actually get it. Thank you.
Fair enough. I intend in our memo back to say a number of things where I think they should spend the money, and they might not do it, but I'm going to put some things in there with whether or not anyone else agrees with me about where this money could be better used to benefit Maine people, but they may not agree. So I hear your point. Okay, so the motion was to move this item out, also known as zeroing it out. All those in favor of that motion on item 29, please indicate by raising your hands. We have Representative Harriman, Representative Sayer, Senator Grahowski, Representative Friedman, and Representative Crockett. All those who are opposed. Representative Swallow, Representative Quint, Representative Rudnicki, Representative Matlack, Senator Bickford, and Representative White. Thank you. And for those who are opposed, your alternate proposal. Rep. Rudnicki and Senator Bickford are saying full conformity.
Full indirect conformity.
Full indirect conformity, which is different than what the governor proposed.
Right.
And as everyone who voted,
You guys agree?
the governor proposed a phase in. Rep Swallow.
Yeah, mine would be, I'd go with the governors on this.
Okay,
I
so
would go along with that. If you guys want. Yeah. Instead of having 3 reports, we can have 2 reports.
I don't think AFA much matters, just as long as we're clear on who's what. So everyone who is in favor, everyone who voted no, who is in favor of the phase-in that the governor proposed,
Yeah.
please raise your hands.
Yeah.
We have Representative Swallow, Representative Matlack, and Senator Bickford. Okay, everyone who voted no, who's in favor of immediate conformity, please raise your hands. We have Representative Quint, Representative Rudnicki, and Representative White. Okay, great. Thank you for that. All right. Next, we had a motion from Senator Bickford on items 30 through 33, which was to move those into the governor's or into the supplemental budget, which is not what the governor had proposed. Is there further debate or discussion on this? Or Representative Swallow?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a couple of points. I continually hear how that the big beautiful bill's intent is just to help wealthy people, et cetera. I won't go into that, whether I want to get to that discussion now, but certainly 30 through 33 is not geared towards wealthy people. It's geared towards the working class, obviously. And these are not exempt people from. So I just want to make that point that this is all these are for the general working class Mainer.
Representative Friedman?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I agree with the intent of the big beautiful bill, but in fact, it appears to me to be more of a gimmick in that the no tax on tips and overtime phases out after 2 years, so it disappears. So does the deduction for car loan interest, which seems to be geared toward wealthier individuals who can afford expensive cars and big loans where they're paying significant interest. And on the senior deduction, Maine has one of the most generous tax credit programs for seniors. And in fact, seniors in Maine are way better off than they are in the rest of the country. This senior deduction would, if we just did that and not the other programs for seniors that we have, where we already exclude Social Security and pensions from taxation for earners under 75,000 or 150 for married filing jointly, they would be way worse off than they would with the feds. So I think that these are, token gestures that really don't benefit the working people of Maine long-term.
I saw Senator Bickford and then Representative Sayer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think when we initially began to discuss this, Representative Crockett asked if we could take these separately, and I agreed with that. So I would like to first address item 30, which is the senior deduction that Representative Friedman so eloquently argued against. I just want to say, 10 years ago, we had a minimum wage that paid $15,000 a year. A person now at 40 hours a week on minimum wage makes $30,000 a year. If you're making Social Security 10 years ago and you're making $15,000 a year, you are not even close to $30,000 a year today. You are at less than $21,000 a year today. That's a $9,000 hit to your sustainability of life. If you have a 401k or a pension that you need to draw against, and it causes you to have to pay income tax to the state of Maine, This senior deduction is for you. You need this. $6,000 deduction is $360 for every senior that can claim that deduction at an average of 6%. It could be 5.5%, but more than likely it's between 5.5% and 6%. That's over $300 a year back in your pocketbook to pay your property tax that you can't afford already. This, I am very, of all these items, this is the one for me that I think is the most necessary for seniors that I talk to when I visit with AARP, when I visit the senior center in Auburn or Seniors Plus in Lewiston. They all want to hear this. So that's my take on a senior deduction. I think we need it. We really desperately need it.
Representative Sayer was next.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, Senator Bickford, couldn't agree more that we should not be taxing Social Security. And that's why I do not want to conform with OB3, because the federal government taxes Social Security. Maine does not. The benefit to Mainers under our current law is in fiscal 26 to Social Security benefit recipients, $157 million. That is the current benefit under current Maine law. And I, for one, am not going to trade Maine seniors $157 million benefit for a $42 million benefit by conforming with the senior deduction. What Maine does is already more lucrative for seniors than what is being proposed in OB3.
Representative Swallow was next, and then Senator Bickford. Senator Bickford, go ahead.
Thank you. And I do want to respond to that. The state of Maine is so good at taking care of seniors that they have cost them $9,000 a year over the last 10 years. Federal minimum wage, I believe, is still $7.50 an hour, $15,000 a year. And they tax Social Security. Maine pays minimum wage, $30,000 a year, doesn't tax Social Security. We had a great program for pensions that we just took half of it away last year. How much more can we penalize senior citizens than we already are? This $6,000 is just helping them stay with the cost of living that we've put on them in Maine. I have a great friend of mine that just moved to South Carolina, sold his house for $550,000 in Auburn. He got an equivalent house in South Carolina for $350,000. So the cost of living in Maine is so egregious compared to our neighbors in other states. We have to give our seniors every opportunity we can to stay afloat without depleting their entire 401k and their pension. And I see Representative Swallows doing some math over there. 550,000 minus 350,000. Yes, it's $200,000. Thank you. Just kidding.
I just want to say, because we do have a lot of work, I'm happy for people to say why they have their position, but we have a lot of opportunity to debate this down the road. And if we can just kind of move through each item. I mean, you know me, I don't like to silence folks, but once the sort of positions are out there, I don't want to have like back and forth for half an hour on every item. But Rep. Sarah, I'll let you say something, or Rep. Swallow, I know you ceded your point in line. So if you do want to, okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to be a bit esoteric here, but bear with me. And I understand what you're saying. Back in it was 94 or 96, the CPI was changed. The basket of goods was changed from what it was under the early Reagan administration. There is still an economist at shadowstatistics.com who keeps track of what would CPI be if it was still kept the same as under the Reagan administration as it was changed to. And when it was 9% under the Biden administration, if we kept the old CPI, it would have been 15.4%, by the way. But what that did was, of course, the CPI is tied to what your Social Security increases every year. So sneakily, the federal government was very smart in changing the consumer price index into what that basket of goods was, because it saved the federal government billions of dollars on the back of the elderly by changing the CPI. So it comes in much lower every year than it would have in the 80s and early 90s. It's just something to keep in mind.
Rep Sayer.
Thank you. Interesting point. Thank you for that, Rep Swallow. All the more reason to stick with what Maine does and not conform with what the federal government does. I mean, I appreciate the things that you are saying about the federal government not keeping Social Security up at the level that it should be. And we could get into why the federal government does not treat Social Security as it should. But here in Maine, we do not tax Social Security benefits. And that is a benefit 4 times the benefit that we are looking at here. Further, we have a deduction for pension incomes, which is a benefit that's also almost 4 times the benefit here. It's $300 million a year for seniors when you combine the Social Security deduction and the pension deduction. And I just don't see why we would step away from our posture of decoupling so as to provide greater benefits to seniors, a population we have more of than any other age group here in Maine, your friend notwithstanding. And I would think that snow might have something to do with the move as well. So it boggles my mind why we would forego $300 million in senior benefits to pursue a much smaller benefit through tax conformity. I, for one, am not interested in taking away $260 million from Maine seniors.
Rep Quinn.
Thank you. I'm a little confused, and so maybe somebody from Maine Revenue can help me out, or Rep Say, or anyone that wants can help me out with this, because I hear you stating that we would be taking away benefits that they already receive in order to conform, and I'm a little confused about how that would occur. Do you have?
The federal government taxes Social Security and pensions, and we do not.
Rep Quinn.
Yes, that I know, but I'm trying to figure out how this affects the senior deduction amount, because it's showing in here the loss of revenue for us to be 42 million, 32 million, 30 million, 18 million. How would we be having a loss in revenue if technically we would be taxing them again, like the federal government is? There's a disconnect here in my mind, and I'm hoping somebody. Right, but
I think maybe I can clear it up.
Thank you.
The point is not that if you vote for this item to go into the budget, that you're then automatically taking away the tax relief we give for seniors on their pensions and Social Security. The point, I think, is that the federal government has made a measly part step toward what the state of Maine is already doing really fully and well. And so to sort of pile that on top as if the policy debate is the same at the state and federal level is what the concern is. Rep Quinn.
Okay, thank you. And that was my understanding, is that it would not go away. And I agree that the federal government could do a lot better in that area. So the question is, or really what we're saying is, already with what we're doing in the state of Maine, doing an additional would help our seniors more. Thus, it's showing why would we having a fiscal note for this? Why would we not want to do that?
I'll just speak for myself. My
Yes.
concern is the way the federal government has made this change I don't believe is adequately targeted to most directly help seniors with this amount of money. I would much rather, again, and I know that the appropriations committee will do what they do, but if I had 40 million to help seniors, I can think of so many great bills we've already moved around property tax fairness credit, homestead exemption, things like that, that we could fund that would be so much more impactful because the income thresholds on this are, some of them capture folks who really are struggling, and some of that is folks who are doing fine based on, and frankly, I really respect the advocacy organizations that are looking out for seniors, and my takeaway from them not testifying that this is what they want to fight for in terms of money is that this is not what they see as the most impactful way to help seniors. And we've learned about other great bills on the table through different events I've been to that have much smaller fiscal notes. And so that's where I stand. I want to help seniors, but this is the probably least targeted proposal I've seen to do that. That is relatively expensive. Senator Bickford.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You made a great point. We could be using that money over a 2-year period. It looks like $74 million. The problem is we're not. That's the problem. We're not putting it towards homestead exemption and fully funding the municipalities for that additional homestead exemption. We're not doing any of that in this. I just want to make that clear.
Yep. And I would just say that is true that the governor has not proposed to use this money at all. Or chosen to apply it to something like property tax. And so my point is, on the taxation committee, our purview is limited. And I would be happy to include recommendations to the appropriations committee that they rethink how we want to spend money to help seniors. And if some portion or all of the tax committee says, let's do the senior deduction at this level, just because we say so doesn't mean appropriation is going to do it either, right? Like, this is all a recommendation. And so I'm not going to recommend this because this is not the way that I think we can best help seniors. Representative Sayer.
Just to add to that, there's a big difference between how the federal government does its budget and how the state does its budget. We have a balanced budget. So the total conformity package in the next 2 years is over $600 million. And if full conformity would require a $600 million deduction from the budget in other areas. And most of our budget goes to healthcare and education. The vast, 80+% of our budget goes in those two areas. So to adopt these things means making substantial, and in the case of fiscal year 2026, the biennium we're currently in, undoing allocations of $360 million worth of revenue for the biennium we're already in. And so I think that's, for me, that goes a long way towards why I'm pretty hawkish on adopting some of these things, because it's not just saying, oh, we're going to pass this benefit on to seniors. It's we're going to have to pass this benefit on and have to find somewhere else to take it from.
All right. Have we fully exhausted I'm exhausted. Rep Crockett.
I haven't said too much. I've
We'll be
gone
the
back
judge of
and
that.
I've gone back and forth on the senior deduction. I have landed where Representative Sayre has kind of spelled out where all the numbers fall. If we end up going that route, it looks bad. It looks bad that we're not going to give seniors $6,000 to other things. So we have to have a good communication plan to explain to people that we're not taking this benefit away.
Yeah, I mean, I would hope that the tax filers, when they file and see that their social security and their pension is not taxed, they will understand that that benefit remains. I don't know that anybody outside this building is confused about that. Representative Sayer?
Just a really quick point, lest we think the benefit is $6,000 for seniors. It's a deduction. So the maximum it would be 7.15% of $6,000. So we're talking more on the order of $450. If we were talking about taking $6,000 away from seniors, it would be a different kind of conversation.
Okay. Are we ready to vote on this item? Representative Swallow?
Just one more point, Madam Chair. That I think it was brought up by someone here that this is only all these issues 30 through 33 are, only to 2025 through 2028. So I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I mean, a lot of these issues in this new big, beautiful bill are extensions of things that would have expired. And what you do is you put something in, and it's not a bad idea to put it in for 3 or 4 years to see if it's effective or not effective or whatnot. I actually like the idea. I don't think that's a real gimmick so much, that's all.
Appreciate that. And I appreciate the tax committee has been thoughtfully extending things, but not making them permanent in a number of cases. It's good to check back in. Okay, we are on item 30. The motion was to move it in. Oh, no, sorry. We were in a group. 30, 31, 32, 33. Which is fine with me to vote them in a group. Does anyone have any other requests for information? Or points they need to make? Yeah, I don't want to be here all day. Senator Bickford?
All right, I'm gonna make a motion item.
We already made a motion. There's a motion on the floor.
I thought we backed it away, no? Okay,
I did not interpret what you said to be officially taking your motion.
all right, okay.
Sorry if that was your intent.
No, that's good.
The motion was by Senator Bickford to move items 30, 31, 32, and 33 in this report into the budget.
Could I just, is full conformity on the senior deduction, is that retroactive to 2025 or is it going forward? I was just looking at the.
Senator Bickford.
Is it retroactive?
What I meant was to make this indirect conformity fully conform to through 2025. That was when it was in. That was beginning tax year 25 was how this was put in the federal budget. Is that correct?
No, and just reading the write-up on page 21, it says that pricing, applying it going forward would result in the 42 million, 32 million, 18, which is what's on the sheet online, 30, but it also says that going retroactive would be 31 million for 25. So I didn't know whether that pricing was retroactive or not.
I think that's
Well,
more
since
of a question about the
tax
table.
forms are already written, I'm gonna go ahead and say, let's make it effective January 1st, 2026. If you guys want to agree to that, so that we have a starting point and we don't have to have amended returns later this year.
Okay, so Senator Bickford has amended his motion to be full conformity of these items, the indirect conformity, starting tax year 2026 is what I heard. And the person who seconded it, I don't recall now who it was, and they might have left. Could we get a new second on that from somebody? Representative Swallow, thank you. Any further debate or discussion on that? All right, all those in favor of moving these items in, please indicate by raising your hands. with the proposal that Senator Bickford had put forward? Representative Swallow and Senator Bickford. All those who are opposed? And we can reconsider if we need to, Rep. Quint. You've got to be in one or the other. Rep. Quint, Rep. Rudnicki, Rep. Matlack, Rep. Sayer, Senator Grahowski, Rep. Friedman, and Rep. Crockett. Thank you. Those who are opposed, Rep. Quint and Rep. Rudnicki, what would you like to do?
Well, no, I just wanted to clarify, this is 30 through 33, like
Yep.
in bulk together, and all of them having the starting date of January 1st, 2026.
Yes,
Good.
that is what Senator Bickford had proposed.
And then that goes from 2026 to 2028 for that block. Okay, very good. Yes. Thank you. So reconsider.
Okay, we'd like to reconsider.
Thank you.
All those in favor of reconsidering? Good enough.
Thank y'all.
Any further clarification before we revote? All right, all those in favor of Senator Bickford's motion, raise your hands. Rep. Swallow, Rep. Quint, Senator Bickford. All those opposed? Rep. Rudnicki, Rep. Matlack, Rep. Sayer, Senator Grahowski, Rep. Friedman, and Rep. Crockett. Representative Rudnicki.
Mine would be full conformity now.
Okay, Rep. Rudnicki, full immediate conformity, indirect conformity. And for everyone else, I'm gonna say is stick with the governor's proposal, don't move it in, and is there agreement? Okay. All the members that voted no, other than Rep. Rudnicki, are in agreement for the record. Okay. There was a request to reconsider lines 8 and 9 in this consolidated report. That was the bonus depreciation and the accelerated depreciation for qualified property from Representative Crockett. What we'll do is work with the staff to notify the members that already voted this item that they've got to revote it. But is there a motion to reconsider? Representative Sayer has moved that. All in favor of reconsidering lines 8 and 9? That's a majority. Thank you. So the previous vote was that I think it might have been you, Senator Bickford, who moved it in, but the previous vote was to agree with the governor on bonus depreciation and accelerated depreciation, which that looks like basically a zeroing out of those lines in her proposal. So not conforming and continuing to decouple. Yeah. Just to reiterate where we were hours ago. Yes, absolutely, Senator Bickford.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, my understanding is that doesn't change the way we do bonus depreciation now. It just continues it.
Yes.
So, yeah, okay, good. Thank you.
Okay, so looking for a motion to agree with the supplemental budget on 8 and 9. Thank you, Representative Sayer, and seconded by Representative Friedman. Anyone need a refresher on this one? Okay. All right, all those in favor of that motion, please indicate by raising your hands. We have Representative. The motion was to continue to decouple. Yeah. Is another way to phrase that. Okay. We have Representative Swallow, Representative Matlack, Representative Quint, Representative Sayer, Senator Grahowski, Senator Bickford, Representative Friedman, and Representative Crockett. And Representative Rudnicki opposes, I assume, and your motion or your report. That's not adequate. I'm sorry. Representative Rudnicki, if you can go on mic. So your options are to basically move in number 8 or move in number 9 or move in both.
I want to move in full conformity.
Okay, so you would like 8 and 9 to be recommended to be part of the budget. Okay. Thank you for clarifying that. Okay. So that is going to conclude our work on conformity for today, noting that items 10, 19, and 24, R&D, QSBS, and opportunity zones have not yet been voted. But we have done a lot.
Yes, we have.
I'm proud. So just let's take the temperature of the committee. Do we want to take up part M, which is the homestead exemption? Next, are committee members able to stay till 5-ish? Okay. I know there was different weather concerns. Okay, so we'll take up part M as our next item of business and see how that goes. And part M was the property tax simplification, modernization, I believe was the phrase, related to the homestead exemption, veterans exemption, blind exemption. Do committee members have further questions on that proposal or need a refresher on it? And I think Representative Quint, go right ahead.
Thank you. I just have a question, and this is hopefully on topic, but with the reimbursement rate of 76%, when was that reimbursement rate put in? It just in my area, there are a lot of people that will now be able to sign on to the veterans part of this that were not able to have that prior, and I just have concerns with the way that that is going to shift in a lot of my smaller towns. And so
Is
just
there anyone from Maine Revenue Services who wants to tackle that? I mean, I remember that we increased it in the past couple of years, but I couldn't tell you what the exact phase up was. Oh, Peter might be online.
hello, Peter, maybe.
Oh, great. Phone a friend.
He is a friend.
Yeah. We want to make sure it was worth his while to sit here online waiting for us. Hello.
Good afternoon. I'm Peter Lacy. I'm the Director of Property Tax and Maine Revenue Services. So the question, could you repeat the question? Because I think I was getting added as a panelist in the middle of the question there.
Okay, Rep Quint, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Hi, Peter. So my question has to do with the reimbursement rate, the 76%, and just there will be many veterans in my area or people who now qualify as veterans who would be eligible for this. And so I think there's going to be a lot of like cost shifting around because of it. Where did we come up with the 76%? Like, how did we arrive at that amount?
So it's a good question. So the amount, if you recall, the Constitution requires a minimum of 50% of a statutory property tax exemption. So the reimbursement rate was 50% for quite a while, and then it went to 62.5%, I believe in 2019 or 2020. And then there was a bill, I don't recall whose bill it was that ramped it up over a period of a number of years, and then put it at 76% as of I believe it was 3 years ago. And so that was a legislative policy decision to put it at 76%. So it's ramped up over time.
And that was just specific to the homestead exemption, not the veterans and the blind, correct?
Correct. So blind historically has not been reimbursed at all because it predated the constitutional requirement. And then veterans was kind of a portion of it was reimbursed because parts of it predated the 78 constitutional requirement, and other parts didn't. So, but part of this proposal is that by creating this tiered kind of consolidated homestead blind veteran exemption, the entire amount will be reimbursed at the homestead rate. So
Thank you.
In your report back.
Yeah.
In the report back paperwork.
Yeah.
The report back.
Got it, right here.
You,
Starts on page 12. So, Peter, my impression was, and I don't know if anyone's run the numbers on this, but ideally, yes, more veterans are eligible, but as we're now reimbursing for things we weren't reimbursing for before, I don't know if to say the hope, but potentially it doesn't significantly impact the municipalities. Was my hope about this, but I don't know if anyone's been able to analyze that. Your mic is off.
That is not going to help. I believe Dr. Allen has numbers on the cost for the homestead, so it will, I mean, it results in an increase to the municipalities of reimbursement. And I don't, without looking at the numbers, I think Dr. Allen has the numbers, but it is a increase to the municipalities of reimbursement, so that they weren't getting before.
Okay, thank you. We've discussed it before, but we didn't vote it yet. And I'm just seeing if there's any follow-up that folks needed. Representative Rudnicki?
maybe I'm confused, which is not surprising. It's getting later in the day. But there would be a cost to the community for the different communities because there's 24% that's not being reimbursed that this is gonna do, right? I just want to make sure I'm aware before I make a decision on this, that if the towns they're getting reimbursed on some of what they happened before, but now we have more veterans that would be eligible for this. So they're getting reimbursed. So say it's the 100%, which is 50,000 comes right off their property. That's if I'm remembering correctly. There's one piece of it, that maybe I'm thinking of something else that came through, but
There are different
the
amounts
levels,
depending on
right, on the
disability
different,
rating.
right. So one of the pieces was if somebody was 100% disabled veteran, service-connected disability of 100%, the homestead eligibility has an exemption of up to 50,000. So if the exemption up to 50,000, so if a house is worth 150,000, they get the exemption of 50, they're paying their taxes on 100,000. But the towns, that 50,000, okay, or the tax on that 50,000. So it's the property tax on that 50,000. The state is reimbursing that property tax on the 50,000 at 76%. Am I correct so far?
Yes, you're correct. Yep.
Okay, so the 24% that's left over is the town's picking up, or everybody else in town but that veteran that's getting the good is picking up the difference.
And the veteran.
And the veteran.
Right.
Yeah, spread amongst the whole
It's
tax
spread
base.
among everybody. So there is a cost to the communities that's addition because in the past, we haven't had these ratings and haven't had necessarily these veterans. I just want to make sure I'm understanding correctly. I don't necessarily have a problem with it, but if we're only reimbursing, and I say only reimbursing something that we're ordering at 76%, then we are actually costing communities money with this. So I want to make sure that I'm on the right track there.
Yes, you're correct. So the proposal increases the veterans exemption, and so it is going to get reimbursed 76%. So you're correct. There is a 24% portion that's not being reimbursed of the new exemption amounts. Correct.
Thank you.
And to just further complicate things, offsetting that is the fact that things that have been reimbursed at 0%,
Right.
such as the blind and some of the legacy veteran ones, will now also be reimbursed at 76%.
Right.
And what I don't know is how does that weigh out? And it's probably different town by town, but I think the goal was overall not creating a huge impact
Right.
where it, some is coming up and some is coming in, I guess I would say. Other information folks need, or is there a motion? Representative Swallow.
Just a question, I guess. We had discussed, this doesn't kick in until, well, not exactly a year, but as of April 1, after the next April 1st, before this actually takes place. It's not immediate when it kicks in. There was discussion on having it immediately kick in. Is that still on the table, or have we dropped that?
I can't recall how we sort of left that conversation. I think it would be harder to do.
It would be harder to do. I see some issues with that. And that's why I'm asking the
Yeah.
question if that's going to be brought up or not.
So just to clarify, if we act on this as it's drafted, then for property tax years starting next April 1, it would be effective.
Yes.
Yeah.
And nobody's looking to change that now.
April 1, 27, yes.
April 1,
And we're gonna-
2027.
Yes, April 1, 27.
Okay, so
If
I
you
see.
closed on a house. well,
April 1, 26 shortly.
That's right. Yes, sorry. There's been too many numbers that are in the 20s for me.
I'm
Senator
just wondering if
Bickford.
it was still discussion.
Senator
I'm gonna
Bickford.
make a motion to move in Part M as
Okay.
written.
All right, there's a motion to move in Part M as written from Senator Bickford, seconded by Representative Swallow. Any further debate or discussion on that? All right, all those in favor of that, please indicate by raising your hands. We have Representative Swallow, Representative Quint, Representative Rednicki, Representative Matlack, Representative Sayer, Senator Grahowski, Senator Bickford, and Representative Crockett. That's unanimous of those present.
I knew you'd come with me.
All right, I'm gonna go to Part O. Part O is the portion about the business equipment tax reimbursement. Well, I guess we are getting close to 5. So obviously we saved tomorrow morning to continue our work because we thought that this is a lot of work, which it is. Are committee members available who are present here now, available at 10? If you're available at 10, raise your hand. You said later. Well, I'm just trying to get a sense of quorum, right? Okay, so that is enough for a quorum, not counting our other members. So I would propose we start at 10. And hopefully the weather won't be too much of an impact for folks trying to travel in the morning. And pick up where we left off. That sounds okay to everybody. Okay. Excellent. Thank you all for your good work. I don't think there's any further business, so I will adjourn the meeting.